WIFTV-PM.
Drew, why you be doing the boys like that, putting them all in their feelings? I don't know. Shit, I can't help it. Nah, cause I be riding in the new whips. Yeah, and shitting on these haters. Yeah. They say I got a problem, huh? Keep banning these foreign whips. Why you doing like that? They say I got a problem. Cause I keep a bad bitch. Don't flag. They say I got a problem, huh? Fucking these racks up. Don't do them like that. They say I got a problem, huh? I stay designer down. They say I got a problem, yeah. They say I got a problem. 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 Pulling up a new whips. Yeah, yeah, I got a problem. 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 Stay dripped up in the lace. New whip, new bitch. Pockets full, walk with a limp. Ballin' on you niggas like Sean Kemp. New stick, got it on my hip. Stay dripped down, keep a bad bitch. My crib filled with muscle whips. Young flat nigga, rockin' skinny jeans. Balenciagas on my feet. Yeah, pulling up, I'm flicking on them. All the jewelry on me, water dripping on me. My jewels bright like chandelier, like bad bitch. I ride fast whip. Got niggas mad with some sad face, cause I came up, started from the bottom. No hand out, got it on my own. Was a team player, but they ain't show love. Put the niggas on, team full of boss. I'm a fly nigga, yeah, I stay sauce. Yeah, I stay fly, yeah, it's every day. Yeah, I got a problem, can't hear myself. I fuck out of women, I drive out of whip. Smoke the best weed, party on yachts. Heard niggas hate, cause a nigga winning. Caught the new whip, got a many feelings. I'm a big dog, pop my shit. Got some young niggas that's with the shit. When I'm in the club, I'm standing out, sending over attention. My jury loud, it's a light show. Hope I rinse up, just lit it up. About to steady come, all my bitches love me, all my niggas hustle. Don't love these hoes, I ain't with the cuff. They say I got a problem, huh? Keep banning these foreign whips. Why you doing like that? They say I got a problem, cause I keep a bad bitch. Don't flag. They say I got a problem, huh? Fucking these racks up. Don't do them like that. They say I got a problem, huh? I stay designer down. They say I got a problem, yeah. They say I got a problem. 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 Pulling up a new whips. Yeah, yeah, I got a problem. 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 Stay dripped up in the lace.
I got a problem, they know that I'm with it. I smoke me an L, but you know that I'm winning. I'm speeding through traffic, they know I'm a risk it. Talking behind me, you know that's a ticket. I rap with my guys, they know I'm a split it. And we not the same, hope you know that we different. You on her back, she want it, she get it. If I start up the cat, hear the roar in the engine. I went and got me a bag. Told my little bitch we can run it up. Yeah, heard you and caught you a bag. He ain't built for this life, he keep fucking up. I got a problem in love with the straps. In case you keep thinking about running up. 2 pockets full, had to give me some more. Now 4 pockets full, had to double up.
They say I got a problem, huh? Keep banning these foreign whips. Why you doing like that? They say I got a problem, cause I keep a bad bitch. Don't flag. They say I got a problem, huh? Fucking these racks up. Don't do them like that. They say I got a problem, huh? I stay designer down. They say I got a problem, yeah. They say I got a problem. 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 Pulling up a new whips. Yeah, yeah, I got a problem. 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 Stay dripped up in the lace.
keep all the followers. How you get the sauce like that? Thought he fell off, but he bounced right back. Niggas show teeth, but afraid to attack. The Canterbury Bird, 33 in the strap. Your boy blessed in, yeah, I bees in the trap. Never been the one to switch teams when you dap. Had to pay my dues and some mean into that. Fear about the drop, heard they fiending for crack. Run it. 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 Run it.
I ran up a bag today. How about a jag today? Popping outside today. We slipping, we slide today. I got a new glitz, new K. I ran up a motherfucking K. I left to the motherfucking bank. Right with your motherfucking bank. I felt on that motherfucking cake. Counting up motherfucking cake. I ran up a 25K. It only took me 2 weeks. I told her nigga he weak. Moonwalk on the motherfucking beat. I jump out, I'm clapping the heat. These niggas, they whack obsolete. I stomping them out in the weeks. Grandma used to make me stay my house outside. You know I was raised in the streets. I'm like bada boop, bada bing. I'm like get them gone, forget about it. You know that shit not a thing. I know that my brothers gon' die for me like I'ma die for them up, let it sing. Yeah.
Run it. 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 Run it.
Hey, cuz, we never cared on my mama, folks. Hey, 10 bucks a day, nothing less on my mama. Balenciaga down, nigga. We never cared about none of that shit, bro. 25K 2 weeks, nigga. We spent that shit, I don't know where it went. I'm finna get it back, though. Fuck that. Yes, sir.
Chip on my shoulder, big as a boulder. From all the years I've been doubted, left out, and simply looked over like niggas ain't see the massive potential. I see murder weapons, wall, you seize a pad and a pencil. I do for self, I learned you worth more when you ask for nothing. Thoughts of killing shit, my brain's a weapon of mass destruction. Nuclear thoughts lead to atomic verses. Me and Max attack with a common purpose. I stole them niggas, you stole out your mama purses. You bitch niggas been disloyal since KB Toys. The streets gave me poise, no Melvins, just a bunch of Rodneys and baby boys. Listen, I'm not the one that you should try your luck with. Get abducted, fucked up, and then left in a rusted bucket, biatch. Sick train of thought, only y'all can conduct it. Just when they thought I was dusted and not a touch, I adjusted, and bounced back like I had Spalding on me. I am God, the clouds open, now the sun's rays is falling on me. To the heavens is calling on me, my shit gon' be elite. Your shit is mystery meat, you say it's beef, but it's all baloney. And fuck these niggas and all they homies, they all is phonies. I'm riding till the wheels fall off this bitch and it's stalling on me. It's alarming these rappers think that we all in the same ballpark. Fuck y'all thought the disrespect is appalling. Standing over the witch's cauldron, concocting murderous plots to help me further my spot. Guess you can say I'm stirring the pot. Heard a lot of niggas think they fucking with the overlord or going overboard. Potent dope that spoke from vocal cords. The key to success is possessing a gift that can open doors. Therefore the flow is nasty like infected open source. You a knight in rusted armor, equipped with a broken sword. Throwing rocks at a fire-breathing dragon. Rhyming words, my nigga. I'm no thesaurus, I'm too the ocean floors. But yet I'm barely scratching the surface. Trust me, it's more to come. So motherfucking hot, I ignore the sun. Imagine if Yvonne Thomas ignored the conscience and chose to abort a son. We never would've got to bear witness to this historic run. It's effortless when I spit these descriptive works of art. I hurt your heart with these harsh realities till it burst apart. It's feeling like I'm about to have a great year. I take the fear and hate here and turn it into Shakespeare, motherfucker. Fuck you mean, bitch.
I'm paying my dues, don't need no extras. Me and the crew, group of bad, don't need no extra shit. Playing with Guapo, that is a knot though, we need that extra. Fly like propellers, we doing extra. When I jumped off the porch, I jumped in the bag. Quiet little just moving the bag. all my options on the triple beam. Ball headed nigga look like Mr. Clean. Bad look, such a drama queen. Ferragamo slash Rockefeller's jeans. Roll a fat leaf, nothing but a thing. Show you how to do it, get into the money. Blue collar play, I'm a Forrest Gump. And know about them losses, took a lot out me. Wanna doubt me, wanna drought me. No, I can't go, that is a no-no. Hit a stain solo, still callin' my brother. Split down the middle, cause niggas ain't with you. Don't mean they ain't with you. Standing in the kitchen, cooking up the butter. Gotta call up Dodgers to whip it up for me. Down to no options, more hustle, more better. We stack mozzarella on the road to the cheddar. These niggas ain't better. Still getting that feta. No, I won't let up, I'm hot like a kettle. Pull a string like your pedal. Horsepower, this just a stallion. Put my foot on the pedal. Niggas be wildin', that blick on consignment. Rock and roll heavy metal. Knock 'em off balance. I need me a challenge. Get down and get don't need no extras. Me and the crew, groupie that don't need no extra shit. Playing with guapo, that is a not though. We need that extra. Fly like propellers. We doing extra. Stacking the racks to the ceiling. Don't need IG to get the picture.
That's why we shine wherever we go. 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 Lord, Lord. Welcome to the mind of a pothead. On my head, see a young nigga got dressed. We don't give a fuck what the cop said. I'm living a legacy. So even when I die, I am not dead. Nigga, I am not dead. Fuck with me.
Great afternoon to you wonderful people. Welcome to this Monday edition of I Said What I Said. We are back in the What's in It for the Black People Media Studios. Thank y'all so much for being a part of it. Thank y'all so much for spreading the word and coming over to the What's in It for the Black People Media page. We have switched over from the Maze Jackson page to now be broadcasting on the What's in It for the Black People Media page. It is so good to be back here with y'all. Thank y'all so much for choosing to be a part of the conversation. As always, your input is valued. It is certainly appreciated. Anything you want to add to the conversation, feel free to do so. We'll read through as many of your comments as possible while we go through. Please, 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 as important as ever, take a quick moment to share the broadcast. We would truly, truly appreciate you sharing it on your personal page and sharing it even within your personal network. Absolutely anyone that you think would add value to or find value in this particular conversation, we welcome them to be a part of the discussion. As I said, this is I Said What I Said. It is intellectual thuggery at its absolute finest. My name is Herb Howard. His name is Tucson Warner 2. What's happening, good brother?
What's up, family? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, my brother. What's the word?
I'm good, man. Blessed and highly favored, man. This is weird as hell. I wasn't expecting us to start off the new year this way. You know what I mean? We're going to make it do what it do.
We adjust and keep it popping, man. Either way, man, feel good to be back here with the people, man. I know as you know, last week and the past couple weeks with everything that's been going on in the country, people have been like, man, I can't wait to hear what y'all got to say about it. And people been like hitting my phone like, I can't wait to hear what y'all got to say about it. And it's like, yeah, we got the studio shut down for until King Day, man. And so it was a perfect time to actually hit the pause button on everything that's going on at the network. It's a perfect time to reset a lot of the things that we had going on here. And so we took that time to step away, and it was productive. It was necessary, and it is absolutely good to be back. Shout out to the Maze Jackson Show kicking it off this morning. The Book of Don, we was in that clown, and I hung out with them all morning. The Book of Don show was lit. The Penis Whisperer was in the building, and they was clowning on that piece for sure. So definitely had a good time. Welcome to the family, to brother Torre Muhammad, man. Kicked off his show today. That was cool as well. Moved right on to the soil with the bigs. Gino and Terrence did their thing as they always do. And now the stars of the show are here, man. We've arrived. So
finally, man. Finally.
Nah, man. I'm glad to be back here with the whole Is Wiz fam, man. Been chopping it up with some of y'all individually on some social media here and there. But it's good to be back in here with y'all today. Thank y'all for being a part of it too, man. Let's see. A few things we're gonna get into today, right? We're gonna talk about certainly the insurrection, the riots that took place down in the Capitol. We're gonna talk about those things, but I think it's only appropriate that we start the conversation today specifically talking about Dr. King, his life, his legacy, what he truly meant. And, you know, for us, it's always important to look at how his legacy has kind of been hijacked for the most part, where people kind of paint him as this, you know, docile, timid character who was only about kumbaya and nonviolent. And that was a part of his strategy, sure, but there was a lot more militance to his approach about what he was doing. And so, I think it's important to highlight those things when you hear certain comparisons. I know it irritates you for sure.
Yeah, man, it absolutely does. But it irritates me because it kind of goes back to the thing that Uncle Walter always talks about, right? Zero gray reliance, right? And, we run around leveraging Malcolm quotes. Like, we love the most disrespected person in the world is the black woman. We love that shit. We love leveraging them as cliches, right? But we don't really study them people. And because we don't really study them people, we confuse the reality of who they are versus the image of who they are. And what we got to understand is those who have been able to create and leverage the image are the absolute enemy that those people was talking about. Sure. So if you're not studying those people directly, man, what you're doing is emulating a motherfucker who was essentially opposed to them people, right? So in a lot of ways, kind of we're reinforcing stereotypes that really don't fit the narrative of their truths, and it doesn't fit the truths of the narrative of our experience today. So the shit just gets irritated to me, dog. So I think it's a great day to come back. I think it's fitting that we are here on King Day. I think we should explore some of the true understandings of King's mission and philosophy, because I think we've confused it, man. Like today, I seen a bunch of shit, all these goddamn memes of King standing next to Obama and Kamala Harris. And in my opinion, man, those people are diametrically opposed to the real mission that King himself had. Wow. And it kind of speaks to the conditioning and how successful this shit has been, but it's why we go into the polls and vote for Kamala because, she was wearing Timbs, or because she went to HBCU, or because she's an AKA, and then a week or two ago, you double back and get mad at Vogue or Vanity Fair, whatever the fuck the magazine was. They had a photo shoot with Kamala had her ass wearing Chucks, right? Now you mad at that shit because she doesn't look presidential, but then you think about it from the standpoint of vice presidential, whatever you want to call it. But you think about it from the standpoint of how she leveraged her campaign. She leveraged the brand of Chucks. She leveraged the brand of Timbs because she wanted to be relatable to your ass. You can't change the game in the ninth inning. That's what the fuck you voted for. You voted for a pair of Chucks and Timbs, you dumbass. So now that you got it, now you want something different. Now you want something presidential. It's oxymoronic than a motherfucker, man. And I just think in this moment, it's time to really explore the realities of, one, our own situation in America, our own identity, and how we're being used and leveraged through, in a lot of ways, man, mimicking. It's like a caricature.
I think you're 100% correct on that piece, but I think when you talk about this idea of using one way, leveraging one approach to kind of get yourself to that platform, and then expecting that kind of approach to change, like that's her script. She got to wrap that script on out until it changes in some other way. So you're gonna see her on the cover of those magazines, kind of dressed down. You're gonna see her having these interviews, kind of dressed down and talking in a certain way. That is what she's bringing to the table in this particular instance. Now, once she's in there, will that change? I expect a lot of it will, but for the time being, I think that is the image that is out there for her, and I think that is the image that we'll continue to see, at least in the short term. That's one of the conversations we want to get into today as well. Another thing we want to talk about is the insurrection, right? So we're going to talk about that, but there's just a few different ways we kind of want to approach that particular conversation, man. Y'all kind of know how I feel about it, man. I'm on record for this for 4 years, saying like I just been waiting for a day like this to come. I knew Donald Trump was uniquely qualified to bring it about. It just took a little bit of time for him to actually get to the point where people would run up into the Capitol. Now, run up in there versus being invited in there, ushered inside, whatever it may be, you describe it as you will. The fact of the matter is you had American citizens inside the United States Capitol and in places that they should not be. And to me, while I wasn't surprised at all, right, I spent the whole day pretty much laughing about it. It was absolute comedy to me personally. I just thought the shit was funny. But a lot of people took it, as in shock for some reason. Now I understand it, because that is what we see white people do on the regular. They don't get their way, they throw a fit. They're the most spoiled group of people on the planet Earth. You talk about white men, they're extremely, extremely spoiled people. If you talk about a spoiled child, you always give them what they want, they throw a fit, you give them what they want, or they throw a fit. That's what white people have done since the beginning of the American experiment. Why you would surprise them throwing a fit now, beyond me. I talked to you earlier about it. You have a more urgent response to what you think that means, though.
Yeah, man. I think we should get into that in the second hour, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm gonna say it like this: that I know I saw the response of people kind of taking it lightheartedly, especially our community. But I don't see it as being lighthearted though, right? I don't see it in that manner at all. I think that we don't fully, again, and it kind of goes back to we don't have a real understanding of nothing. So in a sense, even when you use you leverage white people being spoiled, right?
Right.
I think that's true, but I think all of America is spoiled, right? Because we are all children in the house of our parents, and we've had this kind of reliance on government that allows us to be oblivious and ignorant to the realities of the situation. So when I look at that shit, I see an insurrection as a declaration of war. And I see that shit leading to the possibility of civil war. And I see that shit leading to the possibility of the instability of a government, right? So yeah, the shit might look comical from one perspective, but then you think about it like this, right? We travel to all these fucking third world countries to go parlay. We go lay up on their fucking beaches and chill the fuck out because we can go there with our American dollar, which has some power, and act a fucking fool. Now we can live as wealthy people, right? But the only reason them countries are in those positions is not because those countries aren't don't have the capacity to build wealth. Those countries are like that because America has exploited the shit out of them countries and they have unstable governments, right? So when you think about that shit, what would that look like if we had to live like that every day? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
what would that look like if we was in a position where our government was destabilized? You know what I mean? And us being the bottom caste of the population, of the society, who the fuck did we become? Like when you go to Jamaica and you see the motherfucking native Jamaicans fucked up begging you for money as an American, who do you think that becomes here?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think we need to be looking at it from a different perspective. Now, granted, let's just get into that shit in the later.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that later on the show. I'm just kind of laying the base for it, but I do think they're very, very spoiled. I think it's a response to how they are treated when they misbehave, right? And so that's where I think that kind of spoiled nature comes from. Everybody's kind of going to do their own thing, but what is the response when you make that mistake, when you misbehave? And they've learned that the response to their misbehavior is very, very minimal, and I think that is what led to what we saw on Capitol Hill. Also, want to have a conversation about is Illinois and Cook County specifically, is that like is it like the blackest place in America right now in terms of leadership, right? And I say that when you look around and you see black mayor of city of Chicago, black president of Cook County, which is already the blackest county in America, right? You got a black police chief at the top of Chicago Police Department. Now you have a black Speaker of the House. There's so much black representation in leadership in this area. Is it the blackest place in the country, and does that even matter? Like, are black people getting anything from that piece?
No. So this might be the darkest place in America, but the consciousness is not black, right? So, and I think that's part of the conversation we always have about identity, right? There's a difference. That's why that melanin shit don't move me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Indians got more melanin than me. Let's keep it buck. Everybody in Dunkin' Donuts darker than me.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? But they don't fuck with my philosophy. You know what I mean? They don't fuck with my ideology. But therein lies the intoxication of America, right? And that goes back to even that idea where I just said we all kind of spoiled. You know what I mean? There's this logic here. The very nature of America forces you to assimilate, and the through line of America is that white life has more value. That's just the fucking through line. You know what I mean? So if you assimilate to that idea, what do you get out of it? So if you're not coming to the table, specifically us as being the bottom caste, specifically if we don't have a consciousness connectivity to our black identity, then just being dark skinned don't mean shit to me. You the same as the goddamn motherfucker that's selling me Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
You're the same guy because you think the same way, which is why we have such a commitment to capital, because we fully assimilate into this idea that will solve everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no connectivity to the consciousness of what it means to be black because we haven't fully identified an understanding of that, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see any large scale change for black people. I think you're going to see kind of this race to who can be included in that group of black elite around here. We'll see how that kind of develops as you know, people get settled into their roles here around the city and around the county. But I don't really foresee any large scale changes for black people as a whole. But we'll get into that conversation a little bit later as well. Also in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined by our good brother Q, who's going to pop in with us. He's got a lot of dope things going on, man. He's popping up all over the place. He's on TV. He's in magazines, in the newspaper. Q doing a little bit of everything right now. And with these carjackings that have been going on specifically, he's somebody that a lot of people been wanting to talk to. So we're going to talk to him about that piece as well. And I gotta admit too, I went down one of your YouTube rabbit holes on this Chicago drill music shit, man. I did it on accident, and I clicked on something about Chief Keef and Lil Durk and why Chief Keef can't come. The real reason why Chief Keef can't come back to Chicago. And I don't know, a couple hours later, I'm deep in these videos and watching all this stuff, and it's some interesting things about that I found, because as I was kind of going through it, somewhere in the middle of me watching these videos, it dawned on me that all of this beef that they out here having is virtual. It's happening on the internet. As I'm watching these stories, like, oh, Chief Keef tweeted this, Lil Durk tweeted that, Chief Keef put this Instagram post up, Lil Durk made this song. It's like, none of this is actually happening in person. This is all virtual beef, but people are out here really paying consequences behind these virtual beefs of these two people who every time they actually get in a room with each other, they're like, oh, no, it's cool, that's my bro, everything's smooth. But people out here taking this thing serious, this virtual beef, and it's costing other people that's not even involved for real.
I think it's, you know, likening to the same conversation we were just having about the Capitol and Dr. King. There's this level of disconnectivity in our community, which kind of gives us this misunderstanding of who we are, right? So you create an identity online, and then you protect that shit with everything in your being because you aligned yourself with it in a kind of a religious kind of way, right? Whoever you created yourself to be becomes your God. And that's based in our lack of understanding who we really are. You know?
Yeah, no, that's very, very evident in that piece. So those are some of the conversations we're going to get into as we go through. But I told you first and foremost, we wanted to make sure that we spent the time properly talking about the great one, the Dr. King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is King Day that is to be celebrated. It's always celebrated the Monday after his birthday on the 15th, depending on where that falls. And so as we celebrate him today, man, I started to mess with you today. Like, I started to mess with you today because as we were talking through, you know, some of the conversations that we wanted to have on the show, and you was talking about make these comparisons that are being made between the likes of Dr. King and President Obama. I got a sweatshirt. I got a sweatshirt with a group of people on it, and I think like right behind Dr. King is President Obama. And I started to wear it today just to mess with you, man.
Man, look, yeah. I don't fuck with them people, man. And I'm starting not to fuck with a lot of people because I'm seeing, well, let me not say that, man. What I really want to do, I sent you some clips. I don't know if you got them loaded. You got them loaded?
I don't have them loaded.
All right, man. But there's a clip of Kwame Ture, formerly Stokely Carmichael, who's talking about King's legacy. Mm-hmm. And if we can get those loaded, G, that shit would be beautiful because it speaks to the depths of my discontent. You know what I mean? And again, man, we've like minimized our legacy of leadership down to like sound bites.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That's real.
Even in the context of how we do this podcast, like even when we just started, now we're doing this 3-hour thing, and that's really more out of a necessity than desire. But one of the things we struggle with in kind of pushing this message is that, you know, this is kind of long form conversation. It's no quick clips to just draw and put up on Instagram and shit like that. And we got to realize that the vast majority of people who are in our peer group and below us don't digest information in the long form. They only listen to clips.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's studies that say if some shit on the internet is over 2 minutes long, nobody tunes the fuck in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this isn't a message that you can really receive in under 2 minutes. Right. You know what I mean? But we've kind of created this culture where we've been kind of programmed into this understanding or this how we digest information in soundbite. And you just don't get the information in the soundbite. And if you are getting the information in the soundbite, you usually react stupidly, which is why we'll choose our vice president off the sneakers or the Timbs that she wears, or the visual of it. That's why Instagram is so popular, right? Because it's just fucking pictures. You don't got to read nothing, right? So in that, there's an assumption of what reality is versus the reality of what reality is, right? So if I put up clips of King for fucking 30 years saying, you know, I have a dream that my 4 children will be able to eat at the same fucking lunch counter as, you know, Mary Beth Ann, that becomes the extent of his fucking legacy.
That's real.
Right? We call him a creative genius. We talk about him as in the context of genius, right? But then we only attach his genius to nonviolence. Well, goddamn it, he adapted the nonviolence concept from from Gandhi. What the fuck kind of genius does it take to steal an idea from another motherfucker? So if he's a genius, it cannot just be based in the adaptation of nonviolence.
Can't be.
Because all he did there was leverage another motherfucker's strategy.
Right. That don't make sense.
Could I be a genius if I took Tesla's information and remade the car and painted it a different color? Would I be a fucking genius?
Nah.
This shit is oxymoronic to me.
Yeah, no,
it's oxymoronic.
No, it doesn't make sense, but I don't know if I want to say it because it does make sense though. You know what I mean? It does make sense when you talk about the messaging, when you talk about who the masses and who the powers that be would want to be in leadership, who they would want black people to look to as a model of behavior or a model to strive your behavior after. Like, I think that if I want to maintain my power, I want to maintain the system as it is, I want those people looking up to the likes of Barack Obama. I do not want them looking up to the likes of Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. in his fullest like identity of who he actually was, right? Not into this watered down version of who they teach him to be, but who he actually was in authenticity. You don't really want a whole nation of black people moving like that. You don't want them feeling like that, right? You want them being like, okay, the way to go is the Harvard and the this and that, and like you want them to be more Barack than you want them to be Dr. King. And so if I control messaging and I want people to be more like him than like him, then I'm gonna put that out. And it's the same thing you see in any other industry, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing you see why in music, right? I'm gonna push out. Like if my agenda is to harm a group of people, I'm going to put out music that pushes those types of messaging. I'm not going to put out music that doesn't push those types of messaging. It's the same thing, right? And so on that level, it makes sense. What doesn't make sense, to me at least, is how we eat it up. Like how we just really accept that to be fact and how we move that way and how we can hold up one of those men and then not really know more than basic surface level stuff about the other, when really we should be more aligned with Dr. King's philosophies and ways of being than President Obama's.
But and that's kind of, we're making the same point, cuz, right? Yeah. But what I'm saying is, even in the selling of the idea, and even in the sell, even how the message is being sold, they can't sell you that somebody's a genius by stealing somebody else's idea. Like anybody who's using half of a brain cell would have to say, well, wait a minute, well, what the fuck makes this guy a genius if the only thing you're equating to his genius is his leveraging of another guy's idea? So I'm not saying that the system of white supremacy isn't genius, because it fucking is. It's amazing when you start to really fully understand it. Like, you know, like the Neely Fuller quote says, until you fully understand white supremacy, everything you think you understand will only confuse you. You know what I mean? That shit is brilliant in itself, right? If you don't detach yourself from the very system and every institution that we've ever engaged in, being born American descendants of slavery, then you will fall right in line, directly in alignment with white supremacist philosophy and thought.
Absolutely.
So in order to counteract this idea, in order to counteract this idea, it goes back to, you know, Uncle Walter's statement, zero grade reliance. You got to step away from that shit and say, you know what, man, fuck all that shit. Fuck everything y'all talking about. Because if you're talking about it, by the very nature of you talking about it, means that it's designed to essentially destroy me. The very nature of you parading and applauding some shit means that it's bad for my health. So if you tell me not to spit on the street because it's not sanitary, then I must spit on the motherfucking street, because there's something behind you telling me not to do.
That's detrimental to my well-being.
it's something detrimental to my well-being. I got to fucking do it. Just because you said don't do it. It's just that simple.
You know what's crazy about that? That most people are gonna hear. Most people will hear you say that, and they'll think that is more crazy than to kind of blindly go along with whatever messaging you're told. Like to me, that's the crazy thing. What about their history leads you to be so trusting of them to where you say, "Oh no, I'd rather just go ahead and do what they said," than to automatically say, "I'm not doing what they say."
The most diabolical motherfucker that's ever touched the planet. You gonna trust that motherfucker?
Right,
man. Please.
Exactly. These like, and it's funny because when you are in power, the pendulum can swing about right and wrong at any given moment, right? And so 1 month it can be dead wrong, and it could be when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And then another month it could be, yeah, y'all come on in here and put your feet up on their desk and knock over the podium and take all this shit and kill police officers. Wait, I thought Blue Lives Mattered last month. Same people who screaming Blue Lives Matter, y'all come in here and bash a police officer's head in, murder this man with a fire extinguisher? Like, these are the same people that was Blue Lives Matter last month. But when you are in power and you can do whatever you want, then it swings, right? And so how I felt yesterday don't got shit to do with how I feel today, right? I can do whatever I want. That thing, the goalpost can move for me because that's who I am. And then you have people constantly talking about, this how black people should be on it. Stop it. Ain't no fucking way we could have ran up in there.
But right and wrong is subjective.
Yeah, it's not exactly.
It's subjective. So at the end of the day, man, you know, we can demonize. You just talked about the Chief Keefs and the O Blocks and the beefs that goes on, you know, in the neighborhood, and we could say, man, that shit is completely wrong, right? That shit is completely counteractive to the goal of the people.
Yeah.
But then on the back end of that, we could say, well, these young boys are profiting at a level that the average black family doesn't see, right? We know the statistics, right? 57% of black families with dual income earners do not make $50,000, right? There's also a video on YouTube right now that says what's my man's name who just got killed, King Von, and he touched his first $100,000, which means that there was a second $100,000, right? When he touched his first $100,000, the first thing he did was go back to O Block, the projects, where we know that the income levels is even below the median, right? And he took that 100,000 and he passed out that whole 100,000 just to people in the neighborhood. How can you say that all of the negativity that he's feeding to the masses is wrong when he's bringing that bag back to his people and feeding his people?
Listen, man, you know how I'm coming.
It's subjective, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's subjective. Right and wrong is whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talk about the white all the time. You know, I am for Amsterdam, right? I'm pro Amsterdam. Like, I think that if you can find a place in the community, a given spot in the community where drug trafficking would be least harmful to the community, and you can push it there, then let it go there, because it's going to happen anyway. It is happening anyway. If you can get it away from schools, if you can get it away from residential areas, put it in a space, let everybody who want to be in Amsterdam be in Amsterdam. That is y'all little personal hellhole. If you like it, go over there and handle your business. But meanwhile, all these other blocks where people are just trying to go about their business, they're quiet, the school zones are safe, the parks are safe, because Amsterdam is the spot to go and do all that. People are going to do it anyway, right? And so I'm for it. Don't tell me what's right or wrong. Just tell me what's the greater good in this situation. Can we find some greater good? And so for a person who grew up like King Von, around the people who King Von grew up like, for him to grow up and in his, you know, short 25 years of living, to be able to amass some semblance of financial success and then be able to give back to the people he grew up with, who the fuck am I to say he was wrong? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But what I do know is our things are always considered to be wrong, right? But then you see white people, and you like, these motherfuckers believe that shit. Like, they not just saying that. They not just on camera like crying. Although that one chick was fake crying. Did you see how they exposed the chick that was crying? She was like, it's a revolution. Had the onion in her hand and shit. That was funny. But they really believe that. Like, they really think that they are patriots and they are sparking a revolution. And they like, nah, fam. Like, y'all got, it's 20,000 soldiers sitting in the Capitol because y'all have declared war on this country. How the fuck you think you a patriot on that piece?
Well, there's another perspective on that, right? Because right and wrong is kind of subjective, they are right. And they're right in the context of, I'm going to do whatever the fuck it takes to maintain my position of privilege.
Big facts.
Whatever the fuck it takes, right? Well, we come to the table with this kind of subservient attitude of, hey, man, will you please give me equality? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
hey,
sir.
man, you powerful. Power concedes nothing. Power concedes nothing without demand. And we are here asking to be allowed into the economic engine that is America because we don't have the gumption to say, fuck asking for it. I'm here to take it, right?
Yeah.
We move through our neighborhoods, niggas run through your pockets and yell out GD. GD being the nation that they align themselves with, and they will do whatever the fuck they got to do to maintain dominance within that nation. We own that. If you wanted to say the fuck about my neighborhood, right? But then when we look at the biggest threat to our survival, what do? We stand down.
It's crazy how we react and behave so differently in those two situations. Because like you said, at the street level, we understand full well what it means to lock down your territory, to protect it, to not let outsiders in. We understand what that looks like on a daily basis. Even if the outsiders stay on 64th and I stay on 63rd, I understand how this thing works, right? But you look in every other aspect of our communities and other people are running rampant through our shit. Whether that's police, whether that's business owners, whether that's educators, they are running rampant through our community and we ain't doing nothing about it. We let everybody else come through for something that we kind of understand on a very, very basic level is not okay. Even in your own household as a shorty, you grow up, and I don't care if you shared a room with 3-4 motherfuckers in that room, you understood that this is my space. If that space ain't nothing but this corner or my drawer, like what you in my drawer for, fam? You know what I'm saying? Like we understand that piece at a very, very early age, but somehow when it comes to us as a collective and what our communities look like, we do not implement any of those same teachings that we operate and exercise on a daily basis within our own households and our own immediate communities. I don't know why that is.
Man, I want to address some of these comments. Ad Jackson just said we just saw how that played out in Little Village. When we talk about when the uprising in Chicago happened and the Hispanics in Little Village stood on deck with their guns, like don't bring that shit over here. Right? That's an understanding and an alignment to one community and to land. You not gonna do that shit over here. And them same Hispanics were jumping in cars and running through our neighborhoods and stealing shit right next to us. Right? Going through the stores right next to us. Now there's a kind of level of nuance here because the stores in those communities are owned.
That's theirs.
Right. That's theirs. Right. Where the stores in our communities are not owned and operated by us, so they're not ours. Right. But I want to address a few other comments too. One, Salim, shout out to King Salim. Salim says the blue lives they are really talking about are the blue authority of the white hierarchy.
Absolutely.
Right. They're protecting white power, period.
Absolutely.
Right. At all costs. Paul Jackson says it was an attempted coup and not a revolution. And I agree with you, Paul Jackson. But I didn't say it was a revolution. I said it was a declaration of war. Right. And I think that before any successful attempt in anything, there first must be a try. And what we saw there was the first step why I said declaration. This is what the fuck we own. We ain't on no bullshit no more. Right. And because it was a declaration, there's other shit that play here that we don't even fully know the scope of as of right now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We know that Ayanna Pressley came out and said all of the alarms in her office was snatched out the wall. They don't know if that happened before motherfuckers broke into the Capitol or after. And I'm gonna stop saying broken because they wasn't broken, they was fucking let in.
No, they were ushered in.
Now you gotta ask the question, who ushered them in? Who let them in? Right? Now you gotta ask the question too, because you see through the arrest, some of the people that are being arrested are government officials. Some of the people that are being arrested are National Guard.
That's what I'm saying. That piece right there, the spectrum of people who are being arrested for having run in there, that's telling too. You're not just talking about, broke, poor white people. You're talking about CEOs. You're talking about elected officials being arrested for running up in there. You're talking about veterans, and you're talking about Olympic gold medalists, and all of these people running up in there. And so you're not just talking about a specific group of people or a specific type of white person, if you will. You're talking about a whole bunch of people who thought that was the thing to do, and then they were allowed to do it, man. Some of those videos that came out, I know the brother received a lot of praise and a lot of and I guess it was just due for how he responded. The black officer on Capitol Hill who kind of ushered the mob away from where those government officials were. Man, please, you overcooking your grits, fam. You tweaking, fam. I ain't got shit to do with this. I'm out of here, fam. Hey, Nancy and them is in there, fam. Like, I'm leaving. I'm telling you right now, I'm leaving. Like, what I look like having them chase me around here just to get away from y'all? Y'all ain't never done shit for me. I bet don't nobody in that room even know that man's name, but they walk past him every day and expect him to keep them safe. Fuck out of here, man. Nancy and them is over there if y'all want to know. Like, I couldn't believe I was watching that dude do that, man.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, though, bro, Black Americans are the most patriotic Americans that America has ever seen. And that's kind of the conversation that is always underlying everything else that happens, right? America being built on the concept of democracy, right? But only a democracy via the understanding of whiteness, right? So there's kind of this nuanced understanding of what America really is versus what America strives to be, right? And I think what we've kind of aligned ourselves with the aspiration of what America could be instead of what the reality of what America is, right? So we operate under the understanding of the aspiration of the American Constitution, right? But even in the aspiration of the American Constitution, we got to realize that when they wrote that motherfucker, we wasn't included. Matter of fact, the vast majority of people on American soil wasn't included. It was only inclusive of white, powerful men. It wasn't even included of white peasantry. You understand what I'm saying? Fuck y'all too. Now, they us as 3/5 of a human being, so you know goddamn well they didn't give a fuck about you, but they leveraged your numbers in regards to like census and data and capital, right? But in regards to rights, inalienable rights, your ass don't got none, right? There's no law that there's no law that the white man has to respect. I forget how they say shit. I gotta look that shit up. But my point is, because we align ourselves with the aspiration, we move within that manner. Our mind we got to recondition our mind to get off the aspiration and get into the reality, right? So even in the aspiration, you see shit like when the shit at the Capitol takes place, our community starts responding. If that was Black people, this is what would have happened. You goddamn right, this is what would have happened. The comparison is illogical because you are not under the same system of law that white man is under.
This ain't the same. This ain't the
same. This ain't the same, right? So to keep making that false comparison for me is irrational. You goddamn right you couldn't do those things.
One of these things are not like the other, fam.
We are not like, this is not the same, right? So either we got to decide who the fuck we gonna be and command and demand respect and that aspiration of the Constitution, or you got to fall the fuck back and be the subservient group that you always decided to be. And what we see through the context of our history on this soil, throughout every generation, right? You get the Nat Turners, and what's the quote from Nat Turner? He galvanizes 400 enslaved Africans, and he says, "Hey man, we finna have an insurrection, right? And
we finna kill these hunkies, fam.
Kill these hunkies, right?" Now the 400 he galvanized. 300 of them motherfuckers was like, 200 or 100.
Let's go kill their ass.
How many numbers like, nah, I ain't with that shit. And then the ones who would say I was with that shit says, well, what's the first act of revolution? And he says, no, we got to kill these 100 motherfuckers who said they ain't with it. And that doesn't change throughout the trajectory of our history. Because we honor King today. But if you look at the math, if you look at the data, when King was alive, Black people didn't fuck with King.
Nah.
Not in math.
From credible sources whose opinions I trust that were there during that time say when he first got here, 16 people showed up to that church to hear him speak. 16. Now you walk around, you would meet more motherfuckers who was in that church than could possibly have ever fit in there in one given time. Like it's crazy, but that's kind of how it goes. I want to go back to something you said a little bit earlier, man. When you talk about these acts being a declaration of war, not only the act of actually running into the Capitol, but also the act of then the military deploying 20,000 troops to go protect it, right? We talk about war all the time, and what do we say is one of the first things you do when you are in a war? You cut off the other side's ability to communicate. You cut off their communication, whether that's radio or whatever it might be. You cut off their communication as soon as you can. What did we see them do to Donald Trump? Right? If he's commanding the rebel force, if you will, right? If he's commanding that side of it, then they cut off his communication so he can't talk to his people. Another declaration of war, in my personal opinion, right? So I think a lot of these things are kind of building up, and everybody's kind of seeing these things happen, but I agree with you. I don't think anybody's kind of taking it seriously. Nobody's kind of like, oh, we really finna, but there's finna be an inauguration down there, right? And what does that look like? I think they'll have enough force to kind of quell any potential issues there. I think they'll show up enough force to even kind of deter people from even acting crazy down there. But going forward, what does that look like when you have a declaration from one side, a response declaration from the other side? Who's going back down? I don't see either one of these sides stopping no time soon.
Man, I know we wanted to start up with the King conversation because we haven't got those videos loaded yet. We can't jump right into that. But I want to read something which really was the most telling depiction of what happened in that White House. I mean, in the Capitol building. This article the Time wrote, right? Mm-hmm. And the article was entitled, "The U.S. Capitol Riot Was Years in the Making. Here's Why America is So Divided." And it kind of speaks to the King legacy too, man. But it says, "There is no advanced industrial democracy in the world more politically divided or politically dysfunctional than the United States today. How did the world's most powerful country get to this point? To paraphrase a great American writer, slowly. Mm-hmm. Then suddenly, the Capitol riot was not just years in the making, but decades. That's because three distinct features of American society that have been ignored by the U.S. politicians for too long: the enduring legacy of race, the changing nature of capitalism, and the fracturing of our collective media landscape. Begin with race. The U.S. is far from unique in having a troubled history with race relations, but it has been particularly slow to address the structural legacy of that racism. It took nearly a century following the end of the Civil War for the 1964 Civil Rights Act to be passed. To cite just one example, steps have been taken in recent decades to begin addressing his legacy in earnest, from anti-discrimination laws to affirmative action efforts. It has worked to bring Black Americans toward a more even footing, even paving the way for the U.S. to elect its first Black president. But as the Black Lives Matter protests this past summer made all too clear, there's still much work left to be left unfinished. And that's the only part of the story. The other part is the backlash as a group of white Americans, many of them white rural, are seeing their status in society threatened. As a result of demographics, the recent racial reckoning that has manifested itself both in politics, see redistricting and voter suppression schemes, as well as the violence we witnessed at the Capitol. Well, this anxiety has economic elements. More about that in a bit. It is best understood in terms of broader identity. And if you hadn't read Isabel Wilkerson's Caste, the original Origins of Our Discontents, you should. Years in the making, these feelings of resentment hit a fever pitch in the Trump years, culminating in the last week's deadly riot. To be clear, the U.S. is not the only country that has to deal with elements of racism in their populist movements. Plenty of European countries can attest to that. But given the structural way racism has been woven into the country's fabric, combined with years of neglecting the problem, race relations have contributed mightily to the current state of U.S. political affairs. Then there's the evolving nature of capitalism. This is one. Then there's the evolving nature of capitalism. Capitalism and the economic growth it drove is what made the U.S. world's preeminent superpower in the latter half of the 20th century. The entrepreneurial spirit of the American style of capitalism in particular generated the kinds of innovations and growth that were exported around the world. Helped along by globalization, America's enduring faith in capitalism, and specifically the power of the individual, is the reason generations of immigrants made their way to the U.S. to give their dreams the best chance of succeeding. It's also why the country today is home to companies, especially technology companies, that power our modern world. But there's a flip side to U.S. style capitalism. This capitalist, individualist economic system generates tremendous amounts of wealth, but it has also resulted in an average American worker with less of a social safety net, especially compared to European counterparts. Not to mention a political system more prone to capture by moneyed special interests. Again, this is not something new that suddenly appeared with Trump's arrival at the White House. Yet while U.S. capitalism has long allowed for inequality of outcomes, in the last 30 years, we've increasingly seen the rise in inequality of opportunity as well. And this latter form is more devastating. When people feel that they never even got a shot to compete, let alone succeed, they get angry. And it's accelerating. 30 years ago, when we spoke about those who lost from capitalism, we usually referred to a specific set of blue-collar workers left behind by free trade. In a globalized world, U.S. workers that earn more than the global average are less attractive to hire. But now we are getting to the point where automation and AI are slowly looking to displace a far wider set of workers. And across socioeconomic classes, as the rise of politicians like Bernie Sanders shows, this is as much as a concern for the voter on the left side of the political spectrum as it is on the right. The end result is a more divided electorate fueled by fear about how they are going to survive in American future. That gives the haves more and the have-nots less, with less prospect of moving one group to the other. Period.
Yeah, man, that's a lot, man. But money and power, bro. Like that's what America boils down to. You talk about politics, you talk about capitalism, you're talking about money, and you're talking about power. That is America at its core from the jump till today. And I got a question that I want to pose to you, man. I want to jump into that article. I want to jump into that article and unpack that a little bit. But there's a question I want to pose to you, man. In terms of money and power, which one do you think comes first? Right? Specifically here in America, what comes first? Is it money or is it power? Let's take a quick break. When we come back from the break, let's unpack that article. Let's jump into the conversation. This is I Said What I Said, Herb 2 till 6. We'll be right back.
WIFTBPM. Introducing your trusted source for high-quality Black emojis, better known as Blackmoji. We believe Black is beautiful, and that beauty should be reflected in the digital market. Now there is an app that does just that, starting with Black Greek letter organizations. Blackmoji D9 offers more than an emoji app. It is a cultural experience of Black excellence. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to access a specially curated catalog of emojis representing the Divine Nine. Use the emojis to celebrate Black Greek events, acknowledge current events, support social causes, and learn about esteemed Black Greek members who blaze the trail of Black history. A portion of every subscription goes toward a scholarship fund specifically for members of Black Greek letter organizations to help keep the legacy alive. Download the Blackmoji app today.
Tune in every Sunday. Don't miss it. Live from the West Center for the Black People Media Studios. It is the Kickoff Kickback. Join the conversation with the brothers, Eugene McIntosh, Herb Howard, and myself, Terrence Tomlin.
We got analysis live from the stadium. The brother Joe Lewis will be following through. We got great guests coming in, players, personnel, people.
Say what? We do our thing every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, taking you right up to kickoff.
We picking the full slate of NFL games. We talking fantasy football. Gino got you covered on all the bets. It's a kickback.
Make sure y'all join the conversation. Smash that like button, smash that share button, and continue to help us push the culture forward.
Don't miss it every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, live here from the West Center for the Black People Media Studios.
Mama,
chances make champions. On the solid, I'm a problem, you can't disregard me. Got some bottles and exotic, with your bitch we slotted. I be with goblins, keep some Glocks, we ain't boxing or arguing. No pocket watching, only focus on what's in your wallet. Foot on they necks, I'm a stepper, I apply that pressure. The mob be with me through whatever, we grew up aggressive. Better keep your bitch on the leash, or I bet I catch her. She give me brain like professors, that whole extra clever. All she get is dick and refreshments, don't ask extra questions. We in the party with some weapons, keep yourself together. We hot, dog, Chris shit on us, yeah, we came with relish. Make it rain on the dancers, fucked around and changed the weather. Me and my brother know how to maneuver, been in it too long, bitch, we know what we doing. Get off them drugs and turn in the bull. Whole gang off the yang, we rolling, we groovy. Lord here tweaking on all kind of bullshit, he clutching a 40, he know how to use it. Them hoes just people that slid in between us, they happy to meet us. You know they be choosing. Yeah, we get to the money usually. The fuck are you doing? All that playing tough just to get stumped. The fuck are you proving? Call my homie Quan, shorty low, he pulled up at some foolish. He say them drugs been doing the U-Haul, constantly moving. Saucy, big drip on me like a faucet. I'm awesome, hot as coffee, slick talker. I can't keep these hoes up on me. Hit the bank, make a deposit. Lames look salty, must feel awful. Hit the bank, make a withdrawal, walk out, pockets bulky. No.
This that 290, ain't it? Leave it on, let it rock. I can tell it's 290, man.
All the way, all the way.
Hey, man, you finna have me turned up in here, man. I'm rocking with it, man. What's happening, man? We are back. This is I Said What I Said. We are back live from the What's in It for the Black People Media Studios. At least I am, too, is remote at this very, very moment. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to the conversation today on this relaunch, man. Thank y'all so much for coming over to What's in It for the Black People Media page. Please, 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 if you have not had an opportunity to do so, take a quick moment to share the broadcast, share it on your page. Let people know that we are over here on the What's in It for the Black People Media page. Don't let them miss out on all of the fun that we are having, man. Thank y'all so much for choosing to be a part of the conversation. Got a shout out to my homie DJ in the production studio. DJ, what's the word, good brother?
Man, slow motion better than no motion at all. Hey, y'all can check me out Wednesday, though.
Hey, Weeko Wednesday.
They check me out. I'll be Reese the Ruler then, y'all. Reese the Ruler, no more DJ.
Hey, man, Reese the Ruler and his co-host, Tori. What's Tori's last name?
Norwood. Toy Norwood. Check us out.
Toy. I got that all mixed up. Anyway, Reese the Ruler and Toy Norwood, Weeko Wednesdays. What time is that? 7, 8?
It'll be 8:30 to 9:30. Y'all can follow us on the page too. Weeko Wednesday. Follow me. You can put in Reese the Ruler or Kimo Sabi. Reese is spelled R-I-I-S.
Yeah, man. For the parental advisory on that piece, man. Parental advisory on that piece, man. If you are not here for the foolery, that probably ain't the show for you. But we are building out the back half of our broadcasting. As it gets a little bit later, we get a little bit more risque. So make sure y'all check it out, man. If that's your vibe, Weeko Wednesday, I'll definitely be in tune, man. Shout out to you, brother. Looking forward to you doing your thing. Before we went to break, you had read an article, lots of unpacking that. So do you want to unpack some of the things that stood out to you in terms of why that was so critical to read? Or I also posed a question to you real quick. Like when you talk about money and power in America specifically, is it a chicken or the egg thing? Is there one that you think comes first?
I don't even think money equates to power personally.
Not necessarily.
I think that's part of the disillusionment. You know what I mean? If you want to, just to put it in layman's terms, if you got a big wallet and somebody run up on you on the street with a gun, who's in control? You gonna do what he say, or he gonna do what you say? Who's in control? You know what I'm saying? So who has the power?
Yeah.
You know, that's just a simple way to look at it, man. But
I think these 4-5 beat a full house, right? From the wire.
You know what I'm saying? You was who you was when you got it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That at the end of the day, man, I think that, American currency is fiat currency, and all fiat currency eventually loses its value. But the reason why white supremacists have such a stranglehold on the American economy is not because they just have all of the money. So when you start thinking about wealth, what they do is they have all of the resources, right? They own all of the resources. They own all of the outlets to access. And I think that's what the article will start to talk about, right? And this is not a new concept. I watched a documentary on Netflix the other day about crack cocaine. And it was talking about the inception of crack cocaine into the American diaspora in totality. You know what I mean? And it opened up with conversations around the electorate at the time, was like early 80s. So that's Ronald Reagan era. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they were showing speeches of Ronald Reagan. And what really dawned on me is that Reagan legitimately was the precursor to Trump. He was the exact same motherfucker. This ain't even, the Trump idea ain't even a new idea.
Blame Reagan for turning him into a monster.
But these are the two same people, right? What Reagan did, and even the slogan, Make America Great Again, is a rehash slogan from Ronald Reagan. It's not a Trump slogan. Right. This is he just took this shit from Ronald Reagan, right? But one of the things that Reagan promised in his Make America Great Again construct was that he was going to build more wealth for Americans, right? And what happened was, the way capitalism works, it grabbed a hold, the wealthiest class of those people grabbed a hold of that opportunity. And then the last part of that article, which I didn't read, they talked about media, right? They talked about media, and I didn't read that part of the article. But even in the crack documentary, there was a movie that came out in the early, it's called Wall Street. And there was a real famous character played by, I don't know, one of the white actors that's popular. But his name was Gordon Gekko, and the movie was Wall Street. And there's a line in the movie where Gordon Gekko talks about greed, right? And he was like, man, I don't make shit. I don't create a goddamn thing. Right. I just sell shit. Right. I take your ideas, I basically cheat you out of the value of your idea, and I maximize profit off of this shit.
That's the truth.
Right? And it's the truth. But here's the thing, though. That movie, that era, that identity built a lexicon of people who started to buy into this identity that greed is good. Greed is the shit. Greed is the best way to be. Even if you're a broke motherfucker, you had this mindset. Michael Douglas was the actor. Shout out to God. Thanks, bro. But even if you was broke as shit, the aspiration to get greed or to have wealth based on these constructs of greed became a driving force. Sure. Right? So now when we see billionaires coming to fruition, we praise the billionaire, right? Never recognizing that if he got $1 billion, you got less. Because the pie ain't getting no motherfucking bigger. Right. He just taking more from you.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but we don't see that as an enemy. We don't see him as an opposition. We see him or that person as an aspiration. That becomes the goal. So now, even at the bottom of that barrel, you start to look at this motherfucker who stole all of the motherfucking wealth because he stole it. He's stealing. You don't get that rich without stealing.
Nah, you know behind every great fortune in this country is a great crime. You got a little new money with some of these tech bones, but for the most part, all this money in America is old money that was.
Man, them motherfuckers were stealing too. See Africa and see cobalt. You can't make that shit without robbing black people. You can't do it. So they stealing too.
That's real.
You know what I mean?
That's real.
So they're not adverse to that moniker. They the same motherfuckers. It's the same construct. You know what I mean? So the same thing is continually happening. But the problem is that the morality that usually undergirded the American system that came from the bottom because all you had was morality. Now we ditch the morality for the aspiration. We want to be just like you. So nothing is problematic. And the motherfuckers at the top just keep stealing, keep taking. And eventually it's nothing else to take, right? So now here's the difference between us and those downtrodden white people, right? We've kind of sold and we've been sold this bill of goods that allows us to inherently accept less. We as black people, we just accept less. We make do. That's why fucking Thanksgiving dinner is made out of the slop that the motherfucker left over. We think it's a delicacy at this point. We've learned to accept less, right? Now that white man, though, on the other hand,
what we're not gonna do is defame macaroni and cheese. That's what we're not gonna do.
Either way, it's the same shit, right? That's why we got motherfucking heart attacks at 22. It is what it is, right? But that white man was sold a different bill of goods. He was sold a bill of goods that he's supposed to be elite. He's supposed to be in the upper echelon, right? So when he got to tighten his belt, he ain't gonna accept less. That's when I'm gonna take over the motherfucking Capitol. That's when we're gonna have a civil motherfucking war.
Yeah, because he doesn't have to. He ain't been taught that. You know what I'm saying? He ain't been indoctrinated to believe that he just has to accept whatever is left over for you to have. Like, nah, fam, I want all the shit. And even in the midst of me having all the shit, the moment I feel like I don't, I will send this whole situation up. The very thing I claim to love the most, the very thing I'm willing to kill and die about is the thing that I will run in here and shut it down completely if it is no longer serving me, right? What blows nothing about their behavior ever surprises me. Nothing. The only thing that continues to blow my mind about this whole dynamic is how we react to it. Right? How we've never gotten anything out of it, but we continue to be so blindly loyal to it. Like that's what always keeps me up. Like what they do, I completely expect it. They've been taught that they can forever. That's what they do. You see little white kids going off on their parents in public. We look, we laugh, but they're really being taught that, hey, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, for real, for real. And nobody's going to check you on it. I'm not going to check you on it. Your daddy ain't going to check you on it. The police ain't going to check you on it. You can do your thing. And that's not to say they all just run rampant with no discipline, but they do learn at an early age that shit is pretty sweet for me. Whereas we learn at that same age, don't you touch shit when we go in that motherfucking store, and you damn sure ain't talking back to nobody.
Or that you're supposed to challenge authority.
Right.
Right? Power concedes nothing without demand.
Right.
Right? So when you see the white kid that runs wild in the store, it's because, that's one lesson you are learning. This is all your shit. You can do as you will. And when they talk back to their parents, and I'm not advocating for none of this shit. I'm not saying this is the right way to be, right? Because even their ability to create havoc and go to war is based at its core in a position of lack, right? It's in the position of their own fear, right? Celine mentioned in the comments a little while ago that, for the first time in history, white people are about to be the minority in America, right? I say that all the time. The kids born after 2005, that's the last time white people are going to be the majority of the populace, right? So their whole response to shit is about fear. You know them conversations that black people have in the garage, on the stoop, all their life. Man, if I was in slavery, this how this would have went.
Yeah.
Or when we get power, right? White people think we're gonna do to them what they did to us, right? But the very nature of our beings isn't in alignment with that level of dominance and fear, right? Even to the point of my name. I'm named Toussaint, right? Toussaint Louverture was a bad motherfucker. But in his badness, at the end of his conquering Napoleon and giving us motherfucking New Orleans, at the end of all of that shit, he became the first Barack Obama, right? Now he had a partner that rode with him named Dessalines. They had a conflict. Dessalines said, man, fuck these white folks, kill them all. Toussaint said, no, we ain't got to kill them all. We can govern, and they can't have any power, but we ain't got to fully shit on them because that just ain't the moral way to be.
It's not a decent thing to do.
Not the decent thing to do, right? And that's kind of the conflict. Now, this is some existential internal shit, right? This is some existential internal shit. You can't get me without a mixture of white genetics and African genetics. You can't get me, right?
Right.
So in a lot of ways, we fucking science projects. But if you get to the core of frequencies and energies and the universal law of shit, well, on this African side of me, I got that love and graciousness that evolves from being born next to the equator. So my value becomes my brethren instead of my food. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't have this mindset of lack of scarcity. I got this mindset of love and
abundance
and value and abundance.
Right.
Right. But then on this other side of me, it's like, I got that Caucasoid Mountain shit in me too.
I kill you.
Right? I got that shit in me too. So there's this constant dynamic going on internally with the frequencies that made me, because I'm the sum total of all that came before me, right? And at some point we got to kind of identify with the situation that we're in. When in Rome, do as the Romans,
right?
Right. These motherfuckers go to war.
Period.
These motherfuckers go to war. So sometimes
at the drop of a hat,
how to go to war.
Because they play for keeps.
They play for keeps. We do the same shit, but we only do the shit in the confines of our neighborhoods.
Right. But there's a process. When we talk about understanding the reality of the situation, I think it's important that we understand how fucking brilliant slavery was. G. Like I stand in awe and amazement in saluting how brilliant of a plan that was. Right. Like they put together a plan that was, to this point, has been insurmountable too. Now we've survived, and we've survived. That is purely a credit to who we are, who our ancestors were. I think coming as black people in America, I think, and I've said this many times, that we come from, in my opinion, the strongest people to ever walk the face of this earth. If you survived not only the trip over here, but slavery and Jim Crow and all that, for us to still be here is astonishing. You dig up a racist white person from the 1700s and drop them off, and they would be shocked and appalled to find out that we still in this motherfucker. So kudos to us for still being here. That being said, we have not overcome the system that was put in place 400 years ago. That shit was brilliant. It's masterful. It continues to work. It continues to unfold and show itself in many, many different forms. We still kind of peeling back layers of that onion and finding out, damn, we harmed here. Damn, there's trauma there. Damn, there's a setup here. Like, all of these things continue to kind of unfold before us. And I think that there's a lot to unlearn when you talk about us learning that, you know, kind of assimilating and finding our most peaceful way to exist within this system is the best way forward, right? You had people who bucked the system from day one. What they do? They saw them get killed, whether they was thrown off a ship or shot dead day one or hanged or castrated or whatever it may have been. You saw those people who bucked the system early, dealt with early and harshly in front of everybody. And then everybody else kind of learned, well, maybe I should find a way to kind of tiptoe through this shit and at least, you know, I'll be surviving. And we are masters at surviving. Getting to the space of being able to thrive or overthrow or take over, to this point, we have not shown a collective ability or willingness to do that for an extended period of time. Certainly, we've shown flashes of being able to do that, and we've presented that energy many times, but we haven't been able to sustain it in a way that has allowed us to truly change our circumstances and our outcomes here in this country. And I don't, when I look at the way we treat figures like a Barack Obama or a Kamala Harris, I don't see us moving toward a space where we're getting to a point where we're like, yeah, okay, we can overthrow this thing. We can overcome this thing. I continue to see us kind of figure out how do we tiptoe around this and find our most peaceful existence within it as opposed to overthrowing it. I don't see enough signs of us trying to go about it the other way.
So it's funny, man, when you was like, you know, we've survived it. And the only thing that came to my mind was 50 Cent song Many Men, right?
Yeah. Blood in my eyes, dog, and I can't see is the line that jumps out to me from that.
But it's also, it's like it says, pussy niggas put money on my head, go home, get your refund, motherfucker, I ain't dead. I'm diving in the dirt that ain't been found. I'm the underground king that ain't been crowned. When I rhyme, something special happen every time. I'm the greatest, something like Ali in his prime, right? Yeah. So at our core, man, at our core, I think we are the original man. At our essence, we are remnants of God in the flesh, right? And I think that is what kind of curtails us in operating in full savagery, even though the nature of the problem is almost full savagery. And I wonder sometimes, and this is just a question, I'm not fully sold on any idea, but sure. The question I have is this our response to this oppression? Is it based in, because I believe that love is the most valued frequency on the planet. Right, I think it's the most powerful frequency on the planet. But I think that we've abandoned love in our alignment and assimilation to the space and state of lack that white people deal in. Right, and I mean this in this sense. Right, man. So I tell you all the time, like when I met my son for the first time. Yeah. There was an emotion that overcame me that I've never experienced in my life. And I don't say this lightly because even at that time, I knew that I had fully loved people. You know what I mean? But in the moment that I met him, he couldn't speak. He was a little beanhead, damn near albino looking baby.
Nothing to offer you.
Nothing to offer me, right? And I knew in that moment that I would give all of me to him. I would give the last piece of oxygen that I had to him, right? And I think in that moment, there's a realization of what love really looks like, right? And although these motherfuckers are operating out of a space of lack, I think it is our very nature to operate in the true sense of love. And in operating in that true sense of love, then sometimes your response got to be violent. Period. Because we're walking up to that fence right now.
I agree too, but for me, I gotta push back on love being a stronger motivator or operating at a greater frequency than, say, hate or even just anger, right? In in this day and age, I see anger or hate moving people and galvanizing people more than I see love doing that, right? And it, like a lot of those people, the people out there, they got children, right? All them people you see doing all this wild shit, they got children, so I imagine that they've experienced that feeling that you experienced in having a child and knowing what unconditional love truly feels like. But it's their anger and their hate that is motivating them to move the way that we do. Even when you talk the way that they do, but even when you talk about the way that we move, right? It's not our love for one another that gets us all riled up and ready to take to the streets and ready to demonstrate and ready to, do all these things. It's our anger that causes us to do that. If it was love, we'd do that every day. But only when we're angry do we do that. And when I'm not quite as angry about it anymore, then I kind of go back to playing my little role and finding my peaceful existence within this system. Anger motivates us to go out and say, enough is enough, I'm sick of it. Anger motivates us to go out there and do all that stuff. But it's the same thing on their side. Now, what the hell they angry about, notwithstanding, right? They're angry. And that's what they move. They ain't moving because they ain't moving about love. They moving because they pissed.
I don't disagree with you, right? But you said a minute ago, you said we've made it through all of these eons of experiences.
Yeah.
Right? Slavery, Jim Crow, we just adapted. Why are we still here? That was the question.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Well, and I'm operating and I'm responding from kind of this kind of existential perspective. Mm-hmm. The universe needs us. But the universe needs us to operate in our proper polarity. And our proper polarity is love. I don't give a fuck what they doing it for.
Okay.
How they do it and why they do it. That's irrelevant.
All right.
What they are is the villain in the Batman movie. The universe is looking for fucking Batman. And by the very nature of who we are, in the essence of our spirit, we are Batman. But we have not assumed our proper polarity because we don't fully grasp that understanding of us being Batman. Mm-hmm. We've aligned ourselves with their philosophy, just like you just said. Mm-hmm. But they do it out of this reason. Mm-hmm. Fuck what they do it for.
Right.
Fuck what they do it for.
Right.
What we do it for has to be be paramount in our minds. Right. And what we do it for has to be love. So even in the shit, when I said we had these kind of garage and stoop conversations
sure.
If we was in power, when we do this to white folks, I have no desire in my mind to oppress no white man.
Me neither.
I have no desire.
That don't really serve me.
To shit on no white people. I don't care.
Nah.
I just don't want you shitting on me, right? But as long as you have power, and because you're operating from this space and place of lack and fear, I am under the thumb of your desires instead of the power of my own.
Right. And so then it becomes imperative for me to figure out how to get out from under your thumb, just for my own comfort.
Period.
Not because I want to put my thumb on you, just because I want the comfort of yours not being on me.
Period. It got to be my rules because my rules will be just. Your rules are not just.
Right.
Right? So it means I got to be in control. I got to be in power to have just rules. Then I got to do whatever it takes to get in power to have just rules. But it's kind of it goes back to the kind of the moniker of why good leadership never really shows up. Because most motherfuckers who would be the best leaders usually deny the responsibility of leadership.
Yeah, because a lot comes with that. And I think that, first, let me be clear to you, I agree that love would be the better motivator. That should be why we do the things that we do. I'm just saying when I look around and what I see galvanize people more often is anger or hate or whatever, more or fear even, right? Even fear, I see people moving more based off fear than love. I think that should be number one. That's not what I generally see as I look around and assess the state of affairs, specifically here in America. When you talk about getting to a space where we can respond differently or maybe we will respond differently, I don't know how that's a real thing. I don't really know how we get to that space, bro. And so all I can say is like do it in small pockets, right? I don't see how we get these big things. I think we kind of need to just do it boom, 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 this kind of organic growing, kind of like how we do here, right? Like I genuinely missed all y'all. Like when we weren't broadcasting, I genuinely missed the whole Is Wiz family. Like I can't wait to talk to them, right? And so even earlier when we was in Book of Dawn, I was chopping it up with Nicole and chopping it up with Robin just because just about little shit, right? And we whether we talked about test your work or just little shit, right? You build these kind of organic families that are kind of centered around, similar thought or similar ideology, not necessarily always agreeing, but just understanding there's some issues that we need to deal with, right? You kind of build these families and build these bubbles, and as they kind of grow organically, then I think you end up with something powerful enough to make a change, because I don't really see at these higher levels these things kind of changing in that kind of form or fashion. That was kind of what I was speaking to when I was talking about the fact that I wanted to have this conversation about Chicago being the blackest place in America in terms of representation in powerful places, whether you talk about chief of police, mayor, president of the board, speaker of the house, like all these different places, right? But what is that really yielding us? Like nothing, right? I don't really see where that's coming from. I see people kind of at this highest level trying their hardest to assimilate further into a culture that has never been good for us. And so I think that we got to do this thing organically at a natural level of growth, because I think people that's trying to do it on these mass levels are ultimately striving towards the same shit that is killing us.
So today we honoring and celebrating Dr. King, right? Think about this shit, G. Dr. King was a private citizen. That's it. A private citizen, right?
He young one too.
He never held any government office. He wasn't an elected official. None of that shit. And they have a monument to him on the mall, right? Now, what I'm saying is, the universe was in alignment and said, at this moment, we need Dr. King, right? And to say that Dr. King's effect on the world didn't change the world would be a misrepresentation at best.
It'd be a lot, right?
Right? It would be a misrepresentation at best. He was a private citizen from Atlanta, Georgia, who by the time he was 36 years old, passed on. Flash of light. It was a flash of light. He wasn't even here long. You know what I mean? But him living in the fullness and the trueness of his proper polarity, had enough energy, universal frequency to galvanize the attention of the fucking planet for how many years later? How many King were past 60 years now? What is it? I don't know. It's still we talking about this man, and we talk about him with reverence. Right? Yeah, man, how do we get back to where King was pushing us to? This is one fucking man, a private citizen, right? So I'm only saying that to say he was operating in the fullness of understanding love. And even in the
I just lost your sound. I just lost your sound too. But I think you're absolutely right. I think another key point to understand on that piece is how young he was, right? Like we talk about Dr. King, and for some reason when you refer to him, you kind of like refer to him as though he was like this older man, like he was 60 or 70 years old. You're talking about a man who was killed at 30, 38, 39 years old. Like that's a young dude, and that's why I also look up to people like Fred Hampton, right? To be that kind of young, to be assassinated at 21 years old by a CPD, like that's the type of energy people got to move with. If that's what we on, right? Dr. King was talking that, he was walking that. Fred Hampton talking that, walking that. Like you got to be about what you're saying you about if it's going to be effective. And I think that we can get to those places, but I think that we kind of, there's no way that we can be in constant pursuit of the very same thing that's killing us and expect to overthrow that thing, right? You cannot overthrow that which you love. Like that's not a real thing. So as long as we are so and listen, man, I'm not saying that you can't go get to the bread. I'm simply saying about how we go about pursuing it and then how we view it once we either have it or even before then, right? I think that it is imperative that we find economic independence as individuals and as a collective. That is certainly a part of the process. But when it becomes the sole motivating factor for everything that we do, then it becomes out of line with spirituality. It becomes out of line with what we should actually be doing, how we should actually be moving. And that's when I'm saying you are not moving in love. You moving in something else. Like that's not love based. That's not love centered. That is completely something else. And we got to find a way to get back to that natural space of what we actually should be tapped into. That is what we need to be getting back to that space of. So when we sit here and we observe and we celebrate and we honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on this day, let's do it properly, man. But let's also do it with an assessment of ourselves and us as a collective for how we choose to move, how we are moving in this particular space right now. Like, we have to get to a space where we can understand, like, this ain't the best way for us to be moving, right? We have to be aligned with what we're talking about. Now, I don't think that it's necessary where you talk about a Dr. King who died relatively a broke man or a Malcolm X who died the same way, right? But their impact and their legacy was worth more than any amount of money that they could have amassed during their lifetime. We just got to get ourselves aligned in that same space. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't live nice places, don't drive nice cars, don't take nice trips. I'm not saying that at all, right? I'm saying get it aligned with its proper place and how you should place it in terms of a priority on the list of community building. We got to take a break. When we come back from break, we'll dive deep into this conversation. This is I Said What I Said. My name is Herb. 2 on the line. We'll be right back.
WIFTBPN. Shop at Black-owned and operated Solo Beauty, where you are appreciated and respected. Located at 8158 South Cottage Grove, Solo Beauty can supply all of your black hair care needs. Solo Beauty is open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., Tuesday through Saturday.
What's up, good people?
Y'all go accept my request on the page so I can do the survey.
Why would we do that?
I'm trying to do the survey.
Why would we let you in? Why would we let you on the? You talking about the Iswiz Book Club page? No, why would
we're gonna let you in, Ron. You need to read. I'm with that. I'm definitely putting you on.
Somebody please let Ron in the Iswiz. Is it? I thought it was a public page.
I don't know. I don't run it.
I don't know who run it. You got to talk to Shannon and Robin and.
You say what? Y'all group private like it's something special or something.
First of all, it is something special.
Ass. Okay, there's something special. Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
And you gonna talk it again. Don't get no punishment again now.
Right. They already came in there like, look at her being nice to Ron today. It wasn't gonna last.
You always mess.
I think Asia came in like, for now, like just for a little while.
Just for a little while.
Just for a little while. Just for a little while. Somebody let that man in the page. Somebody let that man in the page, Robin. Please let him in. I said what I said. Herb and 2, right here on What's in It for the Black People Media.
From the bottom, but I'm leaving on top. Before I ever put the arm and hammer in the pot, daddy went home, told mama she could leave me on the block. If a nigga need work done, ain't hard to find. If you pay the right price, I be Johnny on the spot. Paid the plug extras just to fit it with a dot. 50 in the drum, only need 3 shots. I be telling these niggas I'm surgical with it. Ain't trained to be asking, I'm trained to go get it. If it's sustained, then you know I'm gon' hit it. Take nobody with me, don't need co-defendants. No lean in my cup, I don't need codependents. No pills in my blood, just distilling some gloves. And the steamer that's built and the bitch that's in love. Cause when I need an alibi, that's where I'm gon' be. West side of Chi, that's the home of 2-3. Used to breaking people cars parked at the UC. Fuck them, Chief said stick 'em, so we stuck 'em. I was leaning dick to these hoes, I don't love 'em. Waited long to get to these flows, I was stubborn. Got shit to say, gotta get it off my chest. Used to have to pack a piece to get a piece of mind. I ain't resting in peace now, so a nigga feel blessed.
A nigga from the bottom.
From the bottom, but I'm leaving on the top. Focused on the win, I ain't focused on the op. Made it out the streets, but it still fuck the cops.
A nigga from the bottom.
From the bottom, but I'm leaving on the top. Used to rap one up in the pipe, cause the streets don't stop.
I said waiting for others to join. It keeps giving me that. It keeps saying waiting for others to join.
I stay in my lane, the streets make
I don't see you. Okay, I see you. Hey, did we get them videos loaded at all?
Keep it moving cause the beat don't stop till it put me in a box. Trying to get a bag, and I'ma get to it with a mic.
How the fuck I do that?
If you try to stop me, that's a fight for your ass.
See, this that bullshit, man. This is why this is bullshit. Yeah, but see, this is that bullshit where it's like,
still capping for the hoes trying to front. 5 in the cipher, only smoking
this
one
fuck shit.
And they whip only one clip between them. Got 2 guns, but they don't even clean them. Staying in their mama crib, running where your mama live. If you want smoke, I can bring a whole pack.
Why is them? If we can email the shit right to DJ and he can play this shit. Ain't gotta be in no crowd.
Nigga from the bottom.
From the bottom, but I'm leaving on the top. Focused on the win, I ain't focused on the op. Made it out the streets, but it still fuck the cops. From the bottom, but I'm leaving on the top. Used to rise and shine, had to get my proper top. Keeping one up in the pipe, cause the streets don't stop. Every one of homes, granny lived in the rain.
So let me see if I can. I don't know how this shit works. Let me see something. I want you to stay on the phone real quick. I just logged on to the switcher shit. Does it log me on in there?
From the cradle to the grave, I be trying to get
like where you can see my.
I'm a soldier, I ain't dying, no slave. I'm trying to be the ocean, I ain't riding no wave. Man with emotion, I ain't hiding no pain. Gotta make it home to my fam, I ain't dying for a chain. Keep it if you get it. Reaching out my how your brain leaking through your fitted. Came with your life, nigga, bet you ain't about to leave with it. Dig it. Niggas won't believe it till they feel it. Keep the iron on me, I conceal it. I ain't copping out, take the time to appeal it. If I was supposed to have it, I could deal it. Pancakes flying off the skillet. Pitching out a Chevy on Billis. Shot-town shit, cause the niggas that I got down with be on king shit, nigga, and our crowns don't tip. You won't catch me hanging around no simps.
A nigga from the bottom.
From the bottom, but I'm leaving on the top. Focused on the win, I ain't focused on the op. Made it out the streets, but it still fuck the cops. A nigga from the bottom. From the bottom, but I'm leaving.
What's happening, good people? We are back. I guess y'all been here the whole time. Y'all got to hear the curmudgeon in full form. My bad, too, man.
Fuck, I'm true to form.
No, it is what it is. But we trying to get some videos loaded up, and I'm trying to get through the process of doing it through there. But it's weird. Whatever. It is what it is. So y'all got to hear two being two in his raw form. That's hilarious. Anyhow, man, listen. If you are just tuning in, this is I Said What I Said. We are live from the What's In It for the Black People Media Studios. My name is Herb Howard. My esteemed co-host, his name is Tucson Warner. This is intellectual thuggery at its absolute finest. Appreciate the messages I got. Like, yo, we can still hear too. And then I look up on the screen, everybody laughing. This shit, that's hilarious, man. But anyhow,
I can't hear you. I gotta log out and do it again. I can't hear you at all.
You don't hear me? I can hear you. All right, cool. Pop out and then pop back in. I guess you can't hear me say that. But anyhow, y'all seen us kind of go through this process of us being in different spaces and doing this thing remotely. Sometimes there are some challenges, some hangups, and we'll deal with them and we'll keep it rolling, man. Anyhow, I wish Lil Ron was here. That would be perfect if Lil Ron was here. I would just blame that on him. We'd be all good like that. But damn, DJ don't be fucking up like Lil Ron, so I can't really put that on your jacket.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
You know, I listen. They think we be just throwing smut on Lil Ron. He be tweaking sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So it just becomes a part of the thing. I ain't gonna throw it on your jacket for no reason, man. But I would have definitely thrown it on Lil Ron's jacket for no reason. I'd have threw that on him real quick. But anyway, I digress, man. We're gonna get back in here and keep things rolling on along. I gotta sit in the thing though while I'm talking about putting them back in here. Anyhow, that is live broadcasting at its worst, people. But we gonna keep it pushing. We got two back in here, so let's go ahead and pop him back into the screen. So you good? You got me, man? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, cuz.
All right, cool, man. Welcome back.
We had a hot mic. We had a hot mic.
Yeah, we had a hot mic. You couldn't hear what I was saying? So I was saying that everybody got to see the curmudgeon in his raw form right there. I say we was trying to figure out the video things and trying to get through that process, and there was some complications. So they got to hear too in his raw form, man. That was hilarious.
Hey, whatever. Fuck it.
Let's say what I said. I love it. Anyway, jump back into this thing, man. Seriously, we were talking about Dr. King, and we were talking about him kind of walking this purpose and him being kind of aligned with what he was about and being committed to it. Right? We both really love and salute Nipsey Hussle. I see him up on the wall right there over your shoulder too. Shout out to young Nipsey the Great. But Nipsey, man, it's about being in a space where I'm ready to dive behind what I'm getting at right now, and that was Dr. King to the fullest, right? He exemplified that. Unlike many people who have ever walked the face of this earth, it just kind of is what it is on that piece. And so, I don't know that you can kind of put that responsibility or even that expectation on many people. That's not a real thing to be like everybody need to be moving like he was moving. Everybody need to be as committed as he was committed. He was willing to die for the shit. Now, if everybody was on that, we could change our circumstances tomorrow. But that's a tough ask of anybody, let alone a whole group of people. So how do we get to a space where understanding that we probably not going to have a whole black nation of Dr. Kings, but still kind of move with that kind of energy? Is that a real thing, or are we just kind of just resigned to our fate socio-politically in this country?
I think it's based on the same concept I said about the power of love, right? So I don't think Dr. King came to that realization that I'm going to die behind this because, I'm on some ego shit. I'm going to die behind this shit because I love my people. I'm going to die behind this shit because I love humanity. And I'm only going to die behind this shit because those who do not love humanity are out to murder me. And that's a different understanding, right? When you think about the Messiah warriors, who their greeting is, how are the children?
Right.
Because if the children is fucked up, everything else is fucked up.
That is the critical
so the very
question.
nature of my being is about making sure that the children ain't fucked up. That's what I keep saying when I say operating in our proper polarity. You're right, it's a hard ass because ain't none of us in our proper polarity.
Mm-hmm.
We all acting, pretending to be some shit that we're not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
What we're supposed to be is the guidepost for the next generation. That's what I mean when I say the universe needs us.
Yeah.
The Joker is fucking winning and the universe is looking for Batman.
Yeah.
The Joker is in control.
Yeah.
So when we, as Batman or the superheroes of this narrative, show the fuck up being who we're supposed to be, then alignment will come back to the planet. But until then, and even then, right, even for us to get into alignment, we can't defeat the enemy. I heard you say that the Uncle Walter quote, right? You cannot oppose that in which you love.
Right.
So even for us to be the motherfucking Batman to the story, we got to first rid ourselves of their identity. We got to first rid ourselves of their value system because we lose it because we think just like them.
No,
we lose it because we want to be. We just dark-skinned white folks, man, and that's
100%.
that's not our role in this narrative, right? Our role in this narrative is to be true to our own core, to be true to our own polarity, to be true to what the universe demands of us.
Right.
Right. So when it says, I understand chasing capital and we got to get to the capital. Well, we got to get to the capital because that is the design of the paradigm in which they design.
Sure.
Right. So no, we got to destroy the design. We ain't got to master their design. We got to create a new one. We got to destroy their design and create the one that is supposed to be. And the one that is supposed to be is a direct resemblance of what I said. I'm the sum total of all that comes before me. So yeah, I got that equator abundance energy in me, but I also got that Caucasoid mountain energy of lack in me too, which creates what? Balance. And how does the universe operate? Within balance, right?
Sure. As
above, so below. Right? But whenever one of those balances is off kilter, this shit goes haywire.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the prominence of the African American culture is so dominant around the world. Because we are God's ordained people. We are. No way around it. That's why we dominate athletically. That's why we dominate physically. And we talking about Dr. King today, so we can say we dominate mentally. No, we got to harness that power for the one understanding of our identity.
No, those are facts, and I think it does boil down to those basic questions. When you look around, you can tell the state of our existence right now. Just take a look around and ask simple questions. You talk about the Maasai warrior tribe and how are the children? That is a preemptive question that we should always ask. That is how are the children? And the idea being that until we can answer that all the children are well, we got a lot of work to do. That is it's a very in fact, under this hoodie I got on the t-shirt from Reconditioned Community Cooperative. When me and Shanita started that was the slogan. How are the children? And so that's on the back of a t-shirt I got on right now because that is what that has to be the question, right? That has to be the question that motivates us. That has to be the barometer by which we decide what we should be doing. And unfortunately, I think that money continues to be at the forefront of that. Now, can we satisfy all of the needs of the children without money? No. And so that's what I'm saying, where I'm not saying that we can completely drop out of that thing, because that has to be a part of it.
So I'm gonna provide some pushback. Specifically being that today is King's holiday.
Sure.
Right? One of the reasons why it's so easy to whitewash King's legacy is, one, because we don't dive deep into the research. But what he's become is a caricature of a dream, right? And what's amazing to me about that I Have a Dream speech is that I Have a Dream was some shit he said off the cuff. It wasn't even written in the speech. But it's so much value to the I Have a Dream part to me. Because what can you do in a dream? In a dream, you can create whatever reality you want to create. And therein lies the real value, right? So in the context of the conversation me and you are having, you saying, well, the capital matters because, you need capital to do X, Y, Z. What do you need capital to do? Buy clothes? To do what? Buy food? To do what? You don't need capital to do none of that shit, because food grows out the ground, or you can kill a cow your goddamn self. We need capital because we are aligned ourselves in this faulty paradigm. We've aligned ourselves with the idea of the white power system. So even in the context of this being King's holiday, King had the unmitigated gall to say, I can dream beyond the parameters that this white man has designed for me.
Sure.
I know that there's a possibility of a life, of an understanding that's beyond the paradigm in which I'm in. We talk about the equator and the Caucasoid Mountains, right? Evolving next to the equator, what? Everything is in abundance. So it allows me to have a paradigm where I can love my brother over loving this apple, right?
Right.
The Caucasoid Mountains is, I can't love my brother over this apple because of the scarcity of it.
Right.
Right? But what we've done is conceded to the fear of the Caucasoid Mountains. So even in the response that you just said, well, we still got to get to this capital. That's conceding to the fear. Mm-hmm. No, what we got to get to is food. What we got to get to is shelter. What we got to get to is clothing. We do not have to get to it via their design. And that's what I mean. Like, we got to overthrow this shit from its essence. I used to tell my old man when I was young, man, daddy, I need a job.
Mm-hmm.
And my daddy would say, no, nigga, you need money. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And when you approach it from that thought, you think differently. And as an adult man to this day, I don't have a fucking job because I don't need a job. I
agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that piece. But the need for the money itself still exists as the current construct is functioning, right? And so while we are within it, still we need it for something. So even if you talk about, food, shelter, clothing, like even if we talk about educating the children, we got to have a place to educate them. We have to have the materials to educate them. Now, can we do it at the most basic level possible? Sure. Can we use pencil and paper and write on random shit? Like, yeah, we could do the most basic shit possible, but even that takes some form of capital. And then you have people who have to then implement those things, and they need capital to maintain their existence.
So I'm about to push back.
Of course, because you're the pushback king. Shout out to Candace for coming through with that always.
So look, though. Right? We got the pyramids today. We still can't define how they was fucking built. How was them people educated? Right?
Self-educated.
So think about this, man. Think about this though.
What I'm saying is those people were not under a construct that required them to have money. Right? We are in a system that does require that. So you talk about now all of a sudden you're gonna get a whole bunch of people to live outside and build huts and shit. That's not a real thing. And so as things are now, we need money. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be trying to work towards weaning ourselves off of that, but for the time being, you still kind of need it until you can. You don't just kind of take somebody off of, you kind of wean people off of a medication or whatever it might be. Like, I don't know that we can just stop it like that.
Or you just quit cold turkey. You just quit cold turkey. Right?
You can.
And so this is what we've been doing on the 30-day vegan diet with Brother Sadiq, right?
My shit going well too. I want to say that.
I want to say it too. My shit's been going well too. And I had a conversation today with one of my partners. And I was telling him not only have I been doing the 30-day diet shit, but I actually been doing some home workout shit, doing some shit I don't traditionally do. Mm-hmm. And I said, man, and it's been easy. I ain't even thought about eating no meat or da. And the reality of it is, G, is just I changed my motherfucking mind.
For sure. I
And the minute I
changed my mind.
The minute I changed my mind, don't none of that other shit matter no more, bro. It don't matter no more. You've been eating meat for 34 years.
Right.
And you decided, I'm not going to do this no more.
Right.
And it just goes the fuck away.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. We can imagine a future that doesn't include the paradigm in which we are in.
Yeah. No, I feel you wholeheartedly on that. And
But because of our fear, we're like, but what if? Instead of imagine the other what if. Imagine if we succeed, right? And what I'm saying in the context of my argument is that the universe itself demands of us to succeed. Why? Because everything else is going to falter while we are under the thumb of this level of greed. Everything else is going to falter, right? So when we start looking at motherfucking Hurricane Katrinas and Hurricane Sandys and earthquakes and landslides, all this shit is also about the world and the earth being out of balance. When we talk about the possibility of the motherfucking ozone layer getting thinner and thinner, I think we just, was it yesterday or the day before we saw our first snow in Chicago? The earth is getting hotter and hotter. All this shit is interconnected. It's one conversation. Whether it be race, whether it be politics, whether it be economics, capitalism, it's all about the white man's and white superiority's desire to be greed and harness all of the earth's resources. And until we fix that shit or rectify the shit, eventually we gonna die. We gonna die at the hands of police with they knees on our neck. We gonna die at the hands of hurricanes and other natural disasters. We gonna die at the hands of poverty. We just gonna keep fucking dying.
Yeah, for sure.
The point is, you got to stand in the face. You got to stand in the gap. You got to face your fears.
You do, right? You got to be committed to it. You got to make up your mind, just like you said with the food thing. But that's one thing, right? I told you even before the year ended that I didn't really think this was going to be a problem for me. This wasn't really going to be that big of a deal. Like once I decided that's what I was going to do, it was just going to be like, okay, cool. It's not something that I've never done before, something I've done for long stretches before. I didn't see that as being something that was going to be all that challenging for me, right? But when you talk about other things that may be extremely challenging for me to get away from, right? And so I just think that it depends on what it is we're talking about. And when you're talking about an entire group of people, an entire nation of people who have been indoctrinated to think and move and understand a certain way, but not only been indoctrinated to think that way, but they have tangibly set their lives up that way, it becomes more difficult to kind of withdraw from it, right? Because of everything else that it kind of goes along with it. Everything else that's kind of come along with your life, you know, within the constructs of said system. It's a little bit more difficult that you can kind of just drop away from that than it would be had you not been so indoctrinated to that for so long. Not eating meat, I find other things to eat. You know what I'm saying? I even made some, I don't know. What do you call that meat, man? Beyond Meat, mystery, whatever the hell it is. I ate something. I made tacos with it. What you laughing at? Who said it?
The whole point of this conversation and it being the legacy of the King holiday. King, right. And that's why I started off this conversation with saying King didn't hold no office. He didn't have no real power. He was one man.
But he did, right? Though. But he had a lot of power.
But his power was based in what? His ability to operate in his proper polarity, right? You cannot deny truth, right? You cannot deny truth. And even in that, people didn't all the way fuck with King, right? Let's be clear. The people that he was talking about protecting and saving didn't really fuck with him. Facts. A lot of them did, right? It don't take everybody, right? We talk about the Cuban Revolution. I got on the goddamn Che Guevara button right now. 17 of them motherfuckers be the army. Right. They didn't just 17 that didn't be the army. It was a philosophy that the 17 had that said, we're going to command you motherfuckers to rock with us. Mm-hmm. You cannot deny our truth. Right? So it don't take everybody, man. It don't take a lot of people. In the context of King, it took one motherfucker to say the whole planet is going to pay attention to me. Right? And we can look at it in different avenues too, right? We can look at it in context of Jay-Z or in context of Barack Obama for that matter. we cannot deny the fact that their aura and their energy create a level of attention that essentially becomes power that they leverage to move the people that they want to move. But it's really just them operating within the pureness of whatever their truth is.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So all I'm saying is that the shit is the construct of being far-fetched or the impossibilities.
I don't think it's impossible, and I think it's certainly worth the effort. I think that the results of that type of effort, a collective effort in that direction, I think the result, I've said all the time, and I think that when we get to that space, the change that we seek will happen overnight. It's getting to that space that's going to take all the time. If we can get to that space, the change that we seek will happen overnight. But getting to that space is a real process, and I think that we got to be honest about, you know, some of the hurdles that lie ahead for getting to that space. And having operated inside a certain construct for so long, in and of itself, presents an obstacle for you then getting out of that same construct. It's just there's a process to it, is all I'm saying, right? There's a process to you in something for so long, then you get out of it. It's like divorce. You get out of it, like there's a process to that shit. There is some shit that has come along with it just by the mere fact that you have been married to a certain construct or married to a certain system for so long. When that shit is over, there is a process that you have to go through that don't just be like, okay, boom, that shit is over with, right? That would be convenient, but that's just not the reality of the situation.
Well, but at the core of that process, what's the end goal of that process, though? And for me, it goes right back to the conversation of the vegan diet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm changing my mind.
Exactly. I change my mind. I'm right. I'm not fucking with this thing no more.
I'm not. This ain't what I'm on, right? And the minute I ain't on that, then that's just it. And whoever rolls with me, whoever don't.
Period.
Right? But to the core of the concept of the conversation I'm having, though, right? Fuck taking it from an individual perspective. I'm saying as a group.
That's where the problem comes in. How do you do that thing? As an individual, you can pop that thing off. As an individual, I can say, I'm not eating meat. As an individual, I can say, I'm not fucking with the system. I'm not fucking with this person. Like, as an individual, I can make that, and you can see a person go on and flourish and prosper. As a collective, I don't know that it's that simple.
But I'm not. But what I'm saying is, as a group, the argument I'm making is that we lack an understanding of love, right? Because even in the construct of divorce, right? When you truly love something, even in the construct of divorce, seeing it flourish is always good, whether it's with you or without you.
100%.
We have a misunderstanding of love, right? And that's the point I keep making. It is and love can be infectious when you operating in the purity of it. King's love for humanity was infectious. It didn't take everybody for him to influence the goddamn globe. It took him to operate it in the pureness of his understanding.
Sure.
And that's all it takes today. So, but what I'm saying is what we've done is aligned ourselves within a philosophy of lack and fear, just like the very nature and the essence of the white man. That's it.
I can dig it.
That's it.
I can
right?
dig it.
So when you get the largest, think about this election cycle just happened, right? 70 million motherfuckers came out on both sides. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, though. Both of them sides came out on fear.
That's what I'm saying to you, bro.
On fear.
Those are stronger motivators than love, G. Like, even you talk about Dr. King, that shit was not love. That might have been what was motivating him, and I'm not even sure that is what was motivating him so much as anger, inconvenience, discomfort, fear. Those are motivators that cause people to move. G, you've never been as fast as you will be when a pit bull is chasing you, G. That fear is motivating your legs to move at a rate that they otherwise would not move at, G. Like, fear motivates people to bust a move in a way that I don't see love motivating the masses that way. Not a motivated individual. Yeah, love motivated individual to switch up the whole shit. But motivating the masses, that's usually some anger, some fear shit, more so than it is some love shit.
It's a matter of perspective, cuz, right? And we can see the outcomes. Right? Mm-hmm. So fear is the preeminent motivator today. And all of us are operating in this space of lack.
Yeah.
That's it. So a motherfucker that's operating in love, and I think love is such a rarity that we don't even see it in action. We don't even see it. So, which is why we have such an enamoring with King, because we don't see that very often. Right? That shit is a rarity. But what I'm saying is that is what is going to put us back in universal balance.
Agreed.
It's that. Right? So even when we talk to the shorties on the block, right? They align with us because they see that we love them. And you've seen motherfuckers that try to impose fear on them. And how do they respond to them?
Yeah, now you can't scare them.
The shit ain't no different, bro. It's just taking the shit to the center of the storm. That's it.
I'm glad you brought up the shorties, man, because the next thing we want to get into in this hour is this idea of a lot of these things that's happening on the street. You're seeing these spikes and like all these carjackings, and I say that is coming from a place of desperation. I say that that's coming from a place of, you know, this scarcity that is kind of going around and preventing our community that is causing them to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna do whatever to get to it, right? And I think we got to be able to treat that at that ground level. We talk about love, being able to treat that. How do we use that to treat the things that we see on the ground level? I'm going to try to pop our man Q in here. Man, Q, if Q got time for us, I don't even know if Q has time for us these days, man. Q be so busy. He got film crews, full 17 camera film crews, lights and makeup at his house every day. He on TV. I don't know if Q has time for us, but if he does have time for us, we're going to try to pop him into the conversation. Also tie that into the piece I was talking about earlier about the Chicago drill virtual beefs that be going on. Going to have that conversation more on the other side of this commercial. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Q. This is I Said What I Said, Herb and 2 till 6. We'll be right back.
WIIFTBPM. The Chicago Legal Network is the collaboration of attorneys that concentrate in many areas of the law most needed in Chicago neighborhoods. The CLN lawyers focus on personal injury, criminal defense, and other issues. The CLN lawyers all average over 20 years of legal experience and are dedicated to helping the Chicago community. The Chicago Legal Network is committed to developing black lawyers through mentorship and co-representation. So if you were injured in a car accident, slip and fall, or injured on the job, or you need assistance with criminal defense, including driving violations and DUI, check out ChicagoLegalNetwork.com for more information or call 773-912-3545. 773-912-3545.
Yo. L-Town, bitch.
Talk too much, fuck that chitter chatter. If a nigga snake me, I'ma turn his ass to Casper. You been trapping all your life, still broke, you hustling backwards. If my bitch give you eye contact, then you can have her. Turn her to my old hoe, so I'll be looking past her. Don't mind me, I just keep it church like a pastor. You couldn't even imagine what it took to get it here. Ay, I just ran through 100,000 last year. Ay, keep that on the hush. Don't tell my baby mama's child support and hunt me like I know what you did last summer. Ay, real niggas weird, think these niggas bitches color pink. They probably somewhere washing they pussy in a fucking sink. Let that sink in. I put that on the fan. If a nigga cross me, they won't cross nobody again. Ay, many men they hate me, but they bitches wanna date me. Ay, baby, I've been going crazy. I've been on one lately, smoking presidential Ronald Reagan. I don't do nothing basic. Ay, report live from the basement, ballin' like a pacer. Ay, I'm getting that fast money in the fast lane like a racer. Ay, got a Glock with a 50 clip, it erase all your data. Ay, headshot or leave a fuck nigga on the pavement. Ay, his mama better pray for him. They hope the ambulance save him. Ay, will he live or will he die? His lifeline on the maybe. Ay, that's what he get for fucking with me. This shit real, that's on baby. Ay, this shit get tragic. These niggas don't want no smoke. No, they don't want static. David Blaine shots from this Glock, it work magic. If I let this bitch fly, you'll disappear, you vanish. Poof, be gone, ay. Poof, be gone, ay. Poof, be gone, ay. If I let them shots fly, you will disappear like magic. Boy, them niggas fuck niggas, they don't want no static. Fucking with me round this bitch, this shit'll get tragic.
Fly with me, I'm riding, we try for that gold medallion. Pass the drip, I'm trying to die too far, that money pile, but she be silent. When she see how much the pockets crowded, we be filing through them blue notes. Who want product? He a client. He just posing with that pose, too dramatic. He want drama, we want conversation. say about it. That Uzi clear the mileage. Let me keep it real, I ain't got no bodies. But for that fam, bitch, I'm catching charges. No need for no niggas to budge. I'm already in his closet. Post up on the mound. I'm a pirate, he a dodger. Fastball at his face. He a race, not playing tomorrow. The shooter and the driver. One man gang, I'm on the island. Try that with Honda, you gon' get more than a couple patches. Helltown bitch, we ratchet. Get up with me for the bashes. Nigga, they couldn't imagine. Through the mud, we too savage. Used to sleep out of roaches, live out of poachers. Shit was tragic. Breaking down them bundles, moving thunder. Terror, man, this shit get tragic. These niggas don't want no smoke, no, they don't want static. David Blaine shots from this Glock, it work magic. If I let this bitch fly, you'll disappear, you vanish. Poof, be gone, poof, be gone, poof, be gone.
That's why we shine wherever we go. 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 Lord, Lord. Welcome to the mind of a pothead. On my head, see a young nigga got dressed. We don't give a fuck what the cop said. I'm living a legacy. So even when I die, I am not dead. Nigga, I am not dead. Fuck with me.
What's happening, good people? Welcome back. We are live from the What's in It for the Black People Media Studios. Alongside Tucson, my name is Herb Howard. This is I Said What I Said. It is intellectual thuggery at its absolute finest. Thank y'all so very, very much for choosing to be a part of the conversation. As always, your input is valued. It is certainly appreciated. If you want to add to the conversation, feel free to do so. Leave your comments. We will read through as many of them as possible while we go through. Shout out to everybody that is tuned in on Facebook. Shout out to everybody tuned in on YouTube. Appreciate you if you are checking out the show later after the live broadcast. We appreciate y'all checking in as well. I see y'all coming through with the comments. Sometimes when we go back through the show later, I see y'all in there as well. So shout out to y'all as well for tuning in to the show. We greatly appreciate y'all. We realize that y'all could be doing literally anything else. The fact that y'all hanging out with us is something that we do not take for granted. We appreciate y'all, man. But joining us right now, live on the show, is none other than our good brother, Marquin McDonald. Q.
Peace.
Good brother.
Peace, brother. Man, you know, maintaining.
Hey, to what do we owe the pleasure, my brother? You know what I'm saying? Like thank you so much for taking your time out of your schedule to hang out with little old us, man. We are not worthy, but we appreciate it, you know?
Man, stop, man. Listen.
We are not worthy, but we appreciate it,
things
my
are getting busier, and I didn't necessarily expect how all this was going to take place. So, but hey, apparently, you know, the Most High is looking out for me, and you know, I'm that vessel that this particular work is going to get done through.
Yeah, nah, man, it's absolutely deserved. It's well deserved. I know you don't do any of this for any type of attention or accolades. I know you've done this for years and day in and day out without any expectation or desire for any attention that it would garner. But now that it is, I think that it is important to be able to shed light on the type of things that you do in terms of the way that you stand in those gaps in the community on a daily basis, the way that you live it, the way that you talk it, the way that you teach it. I think it's important, man. I'm happy to see you kind of getting that recognition again, fully aware that that's not, you know, why you do those things. But when I see, you know, full camera crews all through your crib, and I see you getting your nose powdered and everything, I'm like, check him out, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I said he done went full Hollywood on us out here, man. But I love it, man. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on, man.
Well, for those who don't know, my name is Marquin McDonald. I'm a martial arts instructor here in Chicago. I also do community work. I've worked with both Herb and Tu. We've done some great work inside the community, and as far as violence prevention and interruption. I helped put together a team who we are affectionately known as the Bronzeville Community Patrol. And we go out virtually every night and we patrol through Bronzeville. We monitor all activity from police activity to community activity. We do our best to interrupt anything that may be negative if we can de-escalate it. If not, we let the authorities handle that. And we just want to bring that message of community and approaching this in the energy of love, as you and Tu were speaking on earlier.
You hear that, Herb? Q is out here whooping ass in the name of love. You hear that?
I'm not gonna put that out there. I didn't say that. Y'all said it.
Hey, whooping ass in the name of love is a necessity, my brother. That's what I'm trying to explain to her right now.
Can you whip my ass though?
Can you whoop my ass though? But in the name of love, you know what I mean? And that's important.
Yeah, no, I get that piece, I understand that as you know, the motivator. I'm just simply saying that I don't necessarily see love being at the forefront of what's motivating people to move in terms of the masses or as a collective. That's all I'm saying. But I get you wholeheartedly on love being at the forefront of that piece. And I know that love is what motivates Q to do what he does. I often cite a quote that came from you, Toussaint, in a documentary that we were featured in some years ago when you said, man, if I got to raise 100,000 of these kids out here like the young man you were dealing with at that time, you're like, if I gotta raise 100,000 of them so the world can be a better place for my son and my daughter, then that's what I'm gonna do. And I know that Q kind of moves from that same space when he's talking about patrolling those communities. It is born from a place of, I want to make sure that me and mine are safe. But for me to do that, I got to make sure that the larger community around them is safe. And so I'm willing to stand in those spaces, and I think it's absolutely something that's to be commended and saluted, and I do that for sure.
Yeah, it's a butterfly effect. It's a butterfly effect. If you're not involved, you don't get, and you got to understand, if you're not going to put in the work is going to be put on you. So it's just as simple as that. If I don't, I've had a history of doing mentorship. If I don't go out and connect with those shorties 9 times out of 10 are dealing with the trauma and the circumstances that they're dealing with. They gonna mess around and turn around and point and possibly harm me, point the gun at me, and they're not doing it out of malice. They're doing it out of necessity, or what they feel is necessity. Mm-hmm. So I have to definitely make a connection with them and bring that village mindset and give them that energy and that love, so I can show them a better way and hopefully be a good guide for them. Otherwise, if you don't get involved, don't complain about what's happening to you or what may happen to you.
Agreed.
And even in that space of place, and how Q responded, he said it's a butterfly effect, right? And what I'm saying is, the three of us on this line right now, instead of closing ourselves in or barricading ourselves into our homes, what we do is open ourselves up to the community. That's a response in love. But what I'm saying is that the vast majority barricade themselves within, and they can't stop the hate per se. And I don't even want to use the word hate, but like Q said, if you're not active, it will actively engage you. You can't run from it. We're all interconnected. And that's what I'm saying. That is the balance, right? As above, so below. You can barricade yourself in your house all you want to. And really what you're doing is attracting the shit that you barricade yourself from. But when you open yourself up to it, it becomes the true repellent. We got to operate in our true polarity. That's the only argument I keep making. And our true polarity is one of love. But because we don't fully understand love, we don't understand what that means. Because even in love, like I said, Q is out here whooping ass in the name of love. Sometimes in love, that's what you got to do. It's part of it. It's a necessity. Right? The lion got to go kill some motherfucking a gazelle to go feed the rest of the lions. It is part of it. He's not killing that gazelle because he's mad. He's killing that gazelle because he loves the motherfucking, that pride he represents. It's part of it. It's the universal balance.
Yeah.
It's how it works.
No, I agree with you. It's a necessary part of it. Q takes it even a step further sometimes when he's talking about violence being kind of this natural response and violence being all around us, right? When the first time he gave the analogy of like gardening and planting or even growing food, right? There's violence in that. And Q, you can explain that much better than I can, man, because it always takes me aback because it resonates with me when you put it that way. Did I just lose Q? Did I just lose myself? Did I just lose everybody? We're gonna try to get them to pop back in here. But I think that ultimately what it boils down to is this idea of the fact that violence becomes necessary sometimes. So even you talk about gardening, you talk about growing food, you have to be able to disturb that environment, right? You talk about disturbing that soil, you talking about disturbing the environment for whatever, little life forms are living under there, right? That there's violence taking place there. And I think that oftentimes when we talk about this fight for our liberation, for whatever reason, we choose to kind of withdraw violence from the table of options for things that we can do to respond to this thing. And violence is a part of it. Nicole saying poverty is violence. It absolutely is, right? Everything that we see put on us is violence. That poverty, that miseducation, all of those things are forms of violence that are being perpetrated against us. But when it's time for us to respond, it's like violence should not be on the table when it's already on the table for us. We see it happening all around us on a daily basis, and it's not just the criminal violence or things that we know to be crimes. We talk about gun violence or things like that, but it's all those other forms of violence, the poverty and education. Those types of things are very, very extreme forms of violence that we experience every day, and they are war tactics. Whether we view them that way, whether we understand them that way or not, doesn't really matter. Those are absolutely war tactics, and they've been perpetrated on us for a very, very, very long time. And until we start to understand, one, that we are in a war, and two, that almost everything we're looking at around us is being used as a tool against us in that war, then we aren't going to have the proper perspective to be able to combat that thing. It goes back to the Neely Fuller quote that we drop all the time: until you fully understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else you think you know will only confuse you. You don't understand that you are at war. You don't understand the tools that they are using against you in that war, and therefore you have no real way of responding or defending yourself in that war. You kind of are a sitting duck until you change how you view this thing. And so I'm 100% with to when he says, like, it's like once you change your mind, you can change the outcome of that thing. Agree with him. I don't disagree at all on that piece, right? But I just understand that there is so much that goes into us getting to that space where we can collectively change our mind. I guess what I'm saying that right now I'm in a space where I don't know that there's a large swooping way to be able to do that. I think it's just gonna have to be this kind of organic thing that kind of just grows from inside all of us, right? And I think that's why it's important that we get together here on I Said What I Said, and we kind of, have this collective conversation where we can speak amongst each other, we can understand the frequencies that we're trying to move out, and then we push those things out on a daily basis in our homes, on our blocks, in our community, and just kind of allow that thing to spread organically. A lot of times I like to kind of disagree with me when I say that sometimes I feel like we're preaching to the choir here, and while there's a bit of a negative connotation that goes along with this idea of preaching to the choir, I find extreme value in it. I think the choir has to be on the same page about whatever it is we're finna go out and minister to the rest of the congregation. And so I think that we have to be on those same pages. And while you have those people who are motivated by that love and who want to move in that light, and yeah, let us all get on the same page. Let us all start to move. Let us create book clubs. Let us create community gardens. Let us do those types of things that will allow us to build and sustain healthy communities on a small scale as they continue to grow. Like, I think that is the way that we're gonna have to approach this thing, because when you look at people who are viewing this thing from a top-down perspective, all of those people, in my opinion, I've seen them all kind of go to a space of this thing is about me more so than it is about the people. And we haven't seen that type of leadership in quite some time. You have, obviously, Minister Louis Farrakhan, but other than that, you don't have people who are really out here, like, putting the collective over the individual. And I think that is just a really, really indicative of America in general. That is how America kind of moves in general. We talk about this American dream. You can be whatever you want to be. And that, to a degree, that's true, right? Even for black people, to a degree, that is true. Now, are we born in a minefield that we're forced to navigate that is intentionally designed to trip us up around every corner? Absolutely. But theoretically, in America, you can do whatever it is that you want to do, right? But it speaks nothing about the collective, right? It's about what you can do for you. It speaks nothing about how we can use each other and benefit as a whole to kind of, divide up the work, right? Collective working responsibility and those types of things, cooperative economics. We aren't really doing those types of things on a daily basis. And I think that we have to get into a space where we are doing those things if we're going to be as effective as we seek to be. And so it becomes necessary for us to feel, okay, who's already on that? Okay, how do we organize that piece and then move on? So when I'm talking about this thing kind of building organically, that's just what it's going to have to kind of look like on a small scale because everybody else is like trying to figure out what they can get from it. It's poverty pimping at its worst, right? It's poverty pimping at its worst when you're talking about people's lives being on the line. We talk about the whole success or failure of an entire movement being on the line. It can't be about that. It can't be about your selfish ideals or your selfish aspirations for what you want to be. You can't continue to put your own economic growth or your own social growth or your own political growth ahead of the health of the collective. That's not a real thing, but we see that happen all the time. And so if on no other day, on King Day, we got to get to a space where it's like, this thing can't just be about me. This is a dude who was fully committed to something that was absolutely not about him. And I think that we all got to get to that type of space if we are going to be successful ultimately in this fight that we see. Gonna take a quick break. When we come back from break, gonna try to pop Q and 2 back into the broadcast. This is I Said What I Said. Herb and 2 joined by Q. We'll be right back.
WIIFTBPM. WIIFTBP. Media's just for you and me. WIIFTBP. Media. You and me.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. How your lungs feeling though? Good?
I'm good, man. If you could make up a social media holiday, what would it be?
Yeah, it is.
Randy said National Don't Let No One Put You Down Day. No.
I got no inhaler. I got
What you gonna do? So when they say something crazy, you slap them.
Oh, okay, my fault. I thought it was an inhaler. My
Randy
bad.
said a Jukathon Day. Man, we're about 60 years old. I be done had a heart. You gotta get your heart rate up.
Yeah, man, I've been working, taking them vitamins like a mug, man. I can't. I'm like, I ain't gonna get sick.
Do what we call
Vitamin
National
D3,
Call Off from
C,
Work Day.
zinc. About to go pick up some selenium later.
You don't like that?
All that shit.
Because I'm the
boss of this family.
Marcus Garvey Day from Remy too. Marcus Garvey Day.
I've been-
All right, what will we do on Marcus Garvey Day? Call off from work?
Oh, they can hear.
I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. That would be great. Okay?
Yeah, right. Every black holiday has something to do with calling off from work.
You're cool. I'm out.
About National Join a Positive Black Organization Day, because I don't want to be recruited. I don't want to be recruited and the brothers be like, thank you. Thank you. How about National Tell White People the Truth Day? Tell them how you really feel.
You can't handle the truth. Why don't we call that National Black People Get Locked Up Day?
I'm going to tell them there's an African American man threatening my life.
Hello.
The most dangerous show in the morning.
Chip on my shoulder, big as a boulder. From all the years I've been doubted, left out, and simply looked over like niggas ain't see the massive potential. I see murder weapons wall, you seize a pad and a pencil. I do for self, I learned you worth more when you ask for nothing. Thoughts of killing shit, my brain's a weapon of mass destruction. Nuclear thoughts lead to atomic verses. Me and Max attack with a common purpose. I stole them niggas, you stole out your mama purses. You bitch niggas been dis-
What's happening, good people? What is happening? What is happening, good people? Look, 2Q, I do not know what y'all was talking about. I couldn't hear y'all, but apparently everybody else could. So I hope I didn't leave y'all out hanging the dry too bad on whatever the conversation was. This is my fault, all right? I keep forgetting to mute y'all mics when we go to break, and so my mic gets muted from the production studio. DJ taking care of me. I am not taking care of y'all. That is my fault, man. So I don't know what the conversation was because I genuinely couldn't hear y'all, but I know everybody else could. So I hope it was Jesus worthy. And now when I want to talk to y'all, I got y'all muted. Ain't that some shit?
It was all about vitamins, brother. It was all about vitamins and taking care of our health.
Okay, good. I saw some vitamin talk, so I thought that was cool. But then I also saw some emoji. What's that damn thing? The eggplant emoji. I saw some of that too, so I didn't know what was going on. Exactly.
I don't know what that's about.
Okay, cool. I'm like, damn. I don't know what's going
You
on.
looking
But
at your own text messages. That's what you was looking at.
no, I saw that in the thread. Ain't nobody. Hey, ain't nobody's. You know what?
You know Butter in the thread. He might be doing some butter shit.
My brother.
Oh man. Well, listen, man. So, look, Q. When you look around and you see some of the things that are happening in the community right now, particularly a lot of these carjackings and things like that. That is one of those things where people kind of look inward on the community, like, well, ain't nobody see nothing, and it's like, yeah, you know, the old lady in the window, she might have saw it, but she'll tell you later, like, who did it. Like, how do we get to a space where we start to address those kinds of things?
Well, we got to definitely have that discussion and find ways of doing it. I know that I've reached out to a few brothers recently, and we're going to try to build on that. I've even reached out to two and talked to two about that. I can tell you right now, it has to be a community effort. Based off of what I've seen doing the patrol at night. And first, let me say this, because there was a conversation not too long ago about why the police can't stop this or why the police can't stop that. And I really don't think that people really understand the difficulty it is to catch, these shorties out here that's doing this.
Yeah, policing is a reactive job by nature.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I just want to give some context of what I mean by difficult. One, there's a no chase clause, so the police can't chase the vehicles no more. They've been getting reprimanded hard, and this is coming from officers that I know personally that are family that's gonna give it to me real. That's
my last moving violation.
They can't chase. They're not. It's a no. And the reason why is apparently a few people have lost their lives due to it.
For sure,
innocent people. And
you chase somebody 100 miles an hour through a residential neighborhood, you are now acting negligently. So
yes.
We suspect them of stealing a loaf of bread from the store, so we chased them 100 miles an hour through the neighborhood, then they smashed into a little old lady, and you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not.
Yeah, so they can't do that. Also, the fact is that I'm also working in a program right now that is held at police headquarters, where we work with shorties that got caught either stealing or carjacking. And what happens is they get a second chance. The state's attorney, they have a program where these shorties won't get, they don't want to let them get a felony charge. The only juveniles though, the oldest age is 18, and they won't let them. They want to give them a second chance. They don't want to throw their life away, put them in jail or anything like that. And it's like a 2-month program. And if they meet the requirements and satisfy all the requirements there, the lead officer will write a letter to the state's attorney. He sends that to the state's attorney as well as with their paperwork that they've had to complete, and they get a second shot. They go to court. The judge goes ahead. They document it, but they don't get the charge. However, unfortunately, some of those shorties go right back doing what they was, just got picked up for. Mm-hmm. And then on some other context, if you have 30 police cars, this is just a hypothetical. You have 30 units inside the community, and a woman gets carjacked. Maybe 2 or 3 of those units will go to that scene to address that situation. Now that's 27 units left. Out of those other 27 units, majority of them are spread out dealing with domestic violence, man with a gun, shots fired, all type of calls. And the reason why I know this is because I see it, and we do this every night, and we hear it every night. And so they're all spread out. And if you're looking for, let's say, a blue Toyota license plate, whatever, and you're spread out handling other jobs, it's hard for them to actually pinpoint. How they've been trying to pinpoint them is by catching them on the cameras. They get pinged on the cameras inside in the neighborhood. However, there's a problem with that. The issue with that is that from the time that they get pinged and they get seen on that camera, from that time to the time it took the dispatch to report it to the officers that are out there might have been a few minutes. So now that car could be downtown somewhere. So one of the suggestions that, that talking to law enforcement and talking to some of the community today, talking to some people in Bronzeville, we were like, how can we team up? Because apparently I found out today that I'm not the only neighborhood watch. There are others. They don't do patrol, but they do have neighborhood watches on certain blocks. Okay. How we can team up, collaborate, and somehow do an eyes open thing. Now, we also have another idea where we're trying to work with the developers of Citizen, where we can get alerts where they alert you already that that there may be a carjacking in your neighborhood. But what we want to do is see if we can get citywide alerts. So if someone got jacked in Hyde Park, if they happen to hit South Loop, even the people in South Loop saw it. And then if you see the vehicle, immediately dial 911, let them know that you've seen it, and so on and so forth. So it's those things. There's like people like, man, why can't we catch them? And it's actually difficult. And believe it or not, some of the shorties grab a car, dump a car, just like that. grab a whip, dump a whip. Now, the most expensive whips that they grabbing, as far as the Dodge Chargers and everything with the Hemi engines, that's money. They take those are getting chopped up. However, smaller vehicles, they actually dump them. You'll see they dump them over on Federal Street or in Prairie Shores, or in our neighborhood. I can't tell you about any other community, but in the Prairie Shores neighborhood and on Federal Street, they dump a lot of cars over there. And and also they're going in their crews 3-4 deep. For example, we caught one of those crews one night right on 36 and King Drive. We saw that there was crews pulling on car doors. We saw a blue Nissan pulling off. We saw one of the shorties get in, but we don't know if he's still in the car now. We don't know. That may be his car. Right. But when we came around and bent the block, they all jumped into the Nissan, and the Nissan took off. We was able to get the plate, make, model of the vehicle, the direction that they went in. They went down 31st Street, northbound on King, hit 31st, and then they went southbound on Lakeshore Drive. And what they do is they'll jump into another neighborhood and then start trying to pick cars from there. So they literally go to each neighboring neighborhood trying to get another cars. And since you got a 4-man team, while I'm still driving the blue Nissan, hey, y'all gonna go check and see if we can go ahead and get a couple more cars. Right. So they really, it's difficult to catch them because they really are bouncing just that quick. These kids ain't stupid. Most of where they grabbing, snatching vehicles at, a lot of the times is close to the E-ways or the expressways, either Lakeshore or the Dan Ryan. Like, for example, a young lady got carjacked in Hyde Park on 53rd the other day. Right. Man, Lakeshore Drive is right there.
Plenty of exit routes. Yeah.
Plenty of exit routes. So it's very, 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 very difficult as far as catching. But it's because it's so few eyes. Mm-hmm. I personally believe, I'm not saying this is going to cure anything. What I'm saying, though, is that I personally believe if the community had a system to where they kept an eye out, reported, documented,
isn't that
and you had more eyes open, you would be able to do some more. It probably would cause a decrease, possibly.
Isn't it ironic that in this day and age where there are literally cameras everywhere, right? Where seemingly you can't go anywhere without being seen, it is now that you can't find people that are committing these crimes, right? Whereas back in the day when we didn't have cameras on every corner, everybody on the block knew exactly what happened. They know what time that car got stole, who stole it, like what direction it went, like. And now in this day and age where not only with the cameras and the technology, but you talk about like social media, right? Where we're seemingly everybody is connected, right? Theoretically, anybody in this world is at my fingertips, right? I could DM Diddy right now if I wanted to, right? Theoretically, I could talk to him, right? But even in a world like that, we are more disconnected than ever. And so you see all of these things kind of playing out through technology, but while we seemingly use it to stay connected, I think it's having the opposite effect. I think it's having the opposite effect to where we are not connected at all, right? And then a lot of things kind of happen when things kind of get lost in translation like that. I was talking to earlier about these, Chicago drill music beefs, and specifically talking about Chief Keef and Lil Durk, right? And how long that beef has gone. And then it dawned on me as I was watching all these YouTube videos about this particular beef, that all of this is happening purely on the internet. These are virtual beefs. They aren't ever in the same room. Very rarely, right? But it's about, Chief Keef tweeted this, and Durk put up this Instagram post, and they put out this song. This is all virtual beef, right? And so I don't know, like, how you get to a space where you can kind of utilize this human interaction and connection when everybody's doing these things virtually, even though it's not really having that type of effect or benefit for us.
So I'll say this, couple of things. One, there is a disconnect. Two things. One, a lot of the people know who these shorties are, but they don't want to say anything. There's somebody knows who's out here doing X, Y, and Z. Okay. That's one. And how that needs to be dealt with or needs to be addressed, I'm not going to speak about that on here right now, but that also needs to be a conversation. And two, the community got to stop. In my humble opinion, this goes into number one. The community has to stop looking out to outsource help. Like, hey, who's going to do this. All I hear people say is they're supposed to do, they are supposed to do, who's going to help me. And the truth of the matter is that as long, first of all, let me change that word, neighborhoods, because we don't have communities. What we have is neighborhoods. And what I mean by that is a community is in my humble opinion, is a group of individuals that know each other. What we have is neighborhoods and blocks where you live across the street from strangers, and you might know a couple people on your block, but that's about it. You know them by first name and hey, how you doing? Might know what they're doing, but whatever. That's if you know, and it's if you know anybody on your block.
What they say, that's why they call it the hood, because it ain't no neighbors, right? We don't know these people for real.
You don't know these people for real. So, you know, like I said, finding out about the other neighborhood watches in Bronzeville, linking up with them and reaching out to them, I was like, man, what we should do, we can do a Zoom and meeting your neighbors. So that's what we're setting up next, to meet our neighbors through Zoom and get to meet each other and know each other. I see you have a neighborhood watch here. We're going to have the CAPS people as well. We're going to, you know, and make those connections so we can have a network where we can hopefully create a system that can maybe bring a decrease of activity in our neighborhood.
Absolutely, you know it would.
So, and going back to what Tu says, listen, man, listen, if you're not out here, if you just on your couch, running your mouth, complaining, and you are not putting in any work whatsoever, please stop speaking. You can't complain. I mean, just find your lane, but don't complain about, you know, about, man, they need to be doing this, they need to be doing that. What are you doing? What pressure are you putting on the city? What pressure are you putting on your community? What pressure are you putting on yourself to get out here and get to work? We go out every night. We stopped 3 weeks ago. We stopped the sister from getting sexually assaulted on 39th in Michigan. She was having a nervous breakdown in the middle of the street. Two brothers tried to take advantage of her and accost her. We was able to pull up. If we wasn't there, what would have happened to her? And what they was trying to do was trying to push her into the motel that's right there on 39th in Michigan. Right where, if you know where Pearls is.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would have happened if the community or the neighborhood or your neighbors didn't come there to serve you? We made sure that she got the right help. We did talk to law enforcement. We monitored that. The law enforcement called the ambulance so they can monitor, so they can take care of her because she has a mental health issue, obviously. And we was able to give detailed descriptions of the two gentlemen that tried to accost her. So if you're not putting in any work, even if you're just looking out your window, recording, reporting, or trying to create a network within inside your neighborhood, what are you angry for?
Right.
You clearly wanted this work.
Right.
So it's simple. That's just me. You both of you know me. Toussaint has to talk to me often to tell me slow down sometimes. Because I be, you know, we say I be on my Batman at times. But the fact of the matter is, if we're not getting involved, ain't nothing gonna get solved. Forget what the police is talking about. The police need to solve. You know how police solve crimes? By people talking to them. You know how police solve crimes? The neighborhood gets involved. They may, or they're gonna do what you don't necessarily want them to do, and they may apply a level of pressure to get people to talk that you may not necessarily agree with, or you might. I don't know. But my point is, if you're not getting involved, then don't say nothing.
Right.
Don't speak.
But for me, man, we can have 1,002 topics, right? But at my core, I believe that these are all branches off the same tree. Every conversation that we have is essentially circular, because in my humble opinion, there's no ill in our community that would not be solved with the eradication of white supremacy. It's just that simple, right? And the way to eradicate white supremacy goes back to us celebrating the legacy of King Day. It's us as men operating in our proper polarity. And the paramount or the guidepost of us operating in that proper polarity is us operating in the understanding of what it means to love purely, right? And in that, shit changes. So even when we think about the shorties, like I've seen some of the comments, one comment might have said, well, where are the parents' responsibilities in regards to how these shorties are moving? Not that did I deny that at all. Then I've seen other comments about, you know, there's other ways to handle these shorties who carjacking XYZ. But then there's a conversation of asking ourselves, why the shorties carjacking? right?
That's the actual conversation right there.
To Q's point, the ones who are going to get the Hemi engines, carjacking is a fucking growth industry in a capitalist country. Let's keep it a buck, right? You can count how many dolphins is in your neighborhood, which means that the industry ain't there no more. So the shorties that was selling dope in the 80s, when the documentary of crack comes on, well, dope was a harmless crime or growth industry because it only affected those who was involved, kind of per se. That addiction doesn't really exist in the same way anymore. So you can't capitalize off that addiction anymore. So what happens? Survival becomes preeminent, and carjacking becomes a growth industry. Now you got some people who taking them cars because they're going to flip that shit at the chop shop, or they're going to flip that shit to somebody else who wants to buy stolen goods, or however they fucking selling it, they're selling it because they want to be able to compete in capitalism. It's the very anchoring of why they're making the decisions. But then there's a second portion. Q said some of these shorties just grabbing these motherfuckers and joyriding. But even in the joyriding construct, right? Why are they doing that? Why are they taking those lifetime risk for some shit that they equate to fun?
Ain't shit else better to do.
Because it creates a level of value amongst their peer groups. I'm the man because I got this, right? So this value, again, is some shit that's outside of their proper polarity. It's some shit outside of me that creates the value inside of me, right? Now we can point the finger at them and say, why did they do that, right? Or we can look at the reality of the situation and say, why the fuck we do the same shit?
But to go on to add on to that, to go into that conversation about the parents, where are the parents at? Where are the parents at? Where's the community at? Where's the village at? So that's once again, that's that external, it's all on you type of deal. It's all on you. None of those kids on 79th was our children. None of those kids. We didn't know them from jump, but we showed them love, which brought the murder rate. It was number 3 in the city at the time. By the end of the summer, it was at number 18. So, because we did what? It wasn't about where you're
just engaged, bro.
Exactly. It wasn't about where the parents at. Now, this is true. There is a conversation that we need to have about that. However, once again, what are you doing? What are we as a collective doing? We use the term our people, but yet we use that term until it's time for us to do something that seems very uncomfortable, like approaching someone that you don't know. You know how many times I was told, hey man, why you going out talking to them shorties, man? One of them gonna pop you one day. Well, then bury me and put on my tombstone. I wasn't afraid to do it. I wasn't afraid to speak to somebody. Just go ahead and bury me on that. The fact of the matter is that today is Dr. King Day.
Right.
It's Dr. King Day.
Right.
The man in himself knew. We had our children listening to his very last speech last night. And my wife was breaking down the subtle nuances in the speech. And she said, you can tell in his speech, he knew he was going to die.
Oh, hell yeah.
He knew he was going to die. And in that, he still, within knowing his life is coming to an end, he still pursued anyway within the work.
Yeah.
He proceeded anyway because he understood what the mission was. So the truth of the matter, listen.
You listen to that mountaintop. You listen to that mountaintop speech. That was a dead man talking to you.
That was exactly right. So, and I know some people may not necessarily agree with me. I've gotten into arguments about this also with some of my friends, but it was emotional. Mine wasn't. It wasn't about emotions. It was about when we first found out that he lost. Trump, like, man, I ain't going nowhere. He had the I ain't going nowhere attitude. I want y'all to recount him. I want to do this. And people was like, oh man, he a punk. He just whining because he lost in this, that, and the third. I'm like, nah, he just like he a Mike Tyson. The attitude is I'm gonna win by any means necessary.
Period.
That's the spirit that like I don't care for Trump, but if I'm gonna fight, that's my spirit. I'm not gonna be like, all right, he got me down. My back is on the ground. I'm bloody. I'm bruised. I'm hurting in pain. Please don't hit me no more. No, we gonna keep going, bro. And then if you do beat me, every time you see me, because you allowed me to walk,
you gotta deal with me
again. You're gonna have to deal with it again. It's as simple as that. But most of us don't have that spirit. Most of us have the spirit of defeat. Or what we want to do is we want to conceptualize, theorize, and imagine in our minds about warriorism and feel good about it. I can tell you right now.
Or we rationalize why we can't do that. You know what I'm saying? We rationalize why we can't do that. Whereas a person like Donald Trump is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, even in the face of all reason that says, bro, this ain't the way to go. He like, fuck you. Yes, it is. Fam, we going this way. Like, and they can put all the facts they want and this fake news, you lying, we rolling. This is what I believe in. I'm committed to it. Stop me.
Absolute gumption. And the one thing, this is the one thing that we have to understand, especially as black men. Nothing inspires black people more and puts the fear in white supremacist America than a black man with gumption. And unfortunately, when we have these conversations, what I'm noticing is very few that have that. I can't listen, you know how long it took for me to get a group of brothers to consistently go out every night to say, look, we're not getting paid for this because we understood the value of it. Mm-hmm. We understand the value. Mm-hmm. We go out consistently. And if we can't go out because one of us is tired, we need to rest, somebody is out at night. We communicate through radio. Today, a brother called me. Unfortunately, I was downtown. He said a sister needs help getting her 102-year-old grandmother to down some stairs into the car. Are you available? This is the community patrol. I'm like, I'm downtown. He's like, okay, you're too far. He said, and I said, these other two guys in the group should be available. And guess what? That sister was able to get help. But you want to know why he called on us? Because he found out, okay, there are men that are reliable that I can count on. Yeah. And that is what's missing. Like I'm sorry if nobody likes what I'm saying, but it is. People be talking real greasy and tough and real honorable, black power, red, black, and green. I'm down for whatever. We're gonna go to war. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of that is here. They live in a movie in their head. When I say, hey, we're gonna go out and we're gonna go talk to them brothers on the corner right there, man, you might get shot doing that.
Most people are not doing that. Very few people are willing to engage in that manner. And so just somebody seeing you being a person who gives enough of a damn to be willing to engage, that's like, hey, that's the person we got to reach out to because don't nobody else give a damn. Ain't nobody else engaged. Like,
how many people didn't show up to 79th Street? The call was put out, and the call was put. Anybody could join us, but specifically, we asked for black men. And I'm not saying this ain't a come down on black men. It's not. But like I said before, we are the first line of security, the first line of defense. Yeah. It's not a come down. This is the first line of defense. Yeah. So we got to be able. I'm sorry, y'all. When we get to this, I get passionate.
Yeah,
I do.
You should.
I'm out here every night. What I see every night is sad. I see trauma. I see pain. I see depression. It is sad, bro. Like, people can talk all they want. I see it. We go give homeless people coats. We go buy some people coffee. We go and patrol. We monitor the police. The police can't stand us. There's some that like us that have come across us. There's others that don't. Why y'all standing there? Because we can. We want to make sure that everybody is safe, that no abuse is going on, and everybody's okay. We're part of the neighborhood watch. And they'd be like, all right. And then somebody have a slick mouth, but we discipline. We don't say a word. And we'll tell them, listen, we're here for you and for them. We stand in truth. So go ahead on with your job. We're not going to interfere. We just want to make sure everything is all right. We've heard them on the radio. We being watched, guys in the green vest. We've heard all of that. We've heard all that talk. And you know what? It makes them, but guess what? I'm a be nosy. This is my house. Yeah. This is my block. This is my neighborhood. I believe in extreme ownership. I pay taxes. This is my city.
Right.
So I told my wife, I had a conversation not too long ago where when I was in Chinatown, when me and my wife got married, she wanted to get married in Pington Park because she loves willow trees. Mm-hmm. She wanted to show her brother the park. They go into the park. I park on the corner. If anybody know where Pington, y'all know where that's at, over there by Wentworth. And so by 19th. And I look up and I see an old Chinese man sitting in the windowsill on the phone. And then not 1 minute later, I'm surrounded by Chinese men in the community. And when I get out the car and ask, how can I help you? They just like, hey, you're not from around here. We just want to make sure everything's all right. We don't recognize you. And my words were, well, one, I'm from Chicago. I'm a Chicagoan, and this is my city, just like you are. And so I got the right to be here. And two,
but on the other hand, I kind of respect it.
But I respect it. They was like, yo, we don't recognize you, man. Who are you? And then when they saw my wife, they wouldn't even leave. When they finally saw my wife come out the park with her brother, and I was like, babe, come on, let's get out of here. And they looked and saw her. My word is bond to you, and I ain't trying to be funny. They was gone like ninjas. And the last person to leave was that old man in that window.
Yeah, because that's probably where it started from. Yeah, that's where it started from. But listen, me and Tu was talking about earlier. We understand that concept on the street level all the fucking time, right? What's the Jay-Z? We learn cars like the back of our hand, right? Like we understand. A car come down the block you ain't seen before, everybody's watching it. Everybody recognizes it. A person come down the street, everybody's watching. Everybody recognizes it. But in terms of large scale, in terms of protect, like we don't do that, even though we understand the value of it, and we certainly have the skill set to do it. But when in terms of like doing it on a community level, we don't really move that way for whatever reason.
Let me say this also.
Real quick.
Just Adrian asked about donations.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to ask. That's what I'm going to say.
No. Yeah. So thank you for asking about that, sis. We don't take donations. We ain't taking any money. Now we are being people in the community are trying to push us to that because we do need resources. But this wasn't about the money. This was not saying that you're saying that. I'm just letting you know this wasn't about that. What started this 5 years ago was Black women were being killed, and they was finding them in abandoned buildings and alleys. And then the brothers got together to go out. And actually before that, there was a sister in Inglewood, who's still in Inglewood. Her name is Tamar Manasseh, who created Mothers Against Senseless Killings. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The brothers got together and was like, those moms don't have security. So what we did was we went out there. And then that's actually how things got conceptualized. And then I eventually ended up becoming the president of Masked Men, or Men Against Senseless Killings. And then I until I went ahead and resigned. But then we started going and patrolling through Bronzeville about every weekend. But it was too inconsistent because of everybody's schedules. And since May, we've been going out every night. But if we ever do decide it's a group think, if the collective decides, hey, we need to take donations, I'll let y'all know. It ain't about that. It's about the work. The value is honestly, listen, I got babies, man. I want them to be able to play outside in front of the house. I grew up like that. I grew up where I can run up and down the block, ride my scooter, my bike, and they can't.
Hey man, listen, so, this is what we talking about though, bro. So I think that, respectfully, I think that you contradicting yourself when you say like, man, it's got to be a community, grassroots operation where everybody's in their lane and participating as they see fit, right? Everybody ain't finna come walk the streets, but I can get you some resources. And so Adrian is being thorough. She's like, all she wants, she's thorough as they come. She's want to help, right? And so I get how y'all coming, right? And not wanting to, open up the door for this potential for somebody to say that y'all out there for any less than pure reasons that y'all are out there, right? But that being said, those are ways that everybody can pitch in, right? And so, I ain't coming out there to walk with you, but okay, y'all need, I don't know, whatever the hell y'all need, but okay, we can hook y'all up to assist with getting some of those things. So I'm saying that to say, let people find their way, right? You told them everybody get in their lane. Let people find their lane and figure out how they want to help, bro. That's all.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
What, Tu? I see it on your face.
But Tu finna get on me. Tu finna be like, hey.
In the words of Harold Washington, take the chicken, but vote for Harold. Hey, take the chicken, but vote for Harold.
This ain't the chicken though, man. This ain't the chicken. This is the community saying let's roll together.
It's the same concept.
No, it's
James
not.
Byrd was here.
It's not the same concept.
For y'all to give out his vote, Harold said, always take the chicken.
Yeah, that'd be the same concept if the check was coming from CPD or something. Yeah, take that chicken, right? But we're talking about the community doing for self.
On time. Can I answer this one question?
Sure, go ahead.
Tammy Jackson asked, is there a patrol in South Shore? Tammy, we come into South Shore. So if Bronzeville is quiet and we find that there's very low activity in Bronzeville and Hyde Park, we come into South Shore. The reason why is I was born and I was raised in South Shore, 68th and Crandon, 6836 South Crandon to be exact. And our families live, a lot of the guys who live in Bronzeville and do the patrol, their families live in South Shore. And plus, I know my good brother Herb is a South Shore resident. And so, and I got other friends and family. So what we have done is we will, if Bronzeville is quiet, we have traveled over to South Shore. I grew up in the Nation of Islam. And so I also check on the mosque and make sure that the mosque is all good as well.
So
even though the brothers are there too.
I think we got to get to a space where we can create a blueprint that can then be duplicated across all those communities by people who are in those communities. Right? I think it's unfair and even unrealistic to expect, you know, the same group that's doing it in Bronzeville to be the very same group that's going to also do it in South Shore and Inglewood and Gresham and you know what I mean? Go ahead, too.
So look, real quick though, I know we only got like a minute left, man. Two things I want to do. One, there's a lot of comments saying Q, or not just specifically not directly to Q, but saying are you in this area, or are you in this area, or are you in this area? That's counterintuitive to the goal, in my opinion, right? What you have to do is, if you are in those areas, galvanize the people in those areas to become the same kind of force, right? When we did the shit on 79th Street, none of us was from 79th Street. It's not my responsibility to take care of 79th Street, but 79th Street is not my neighborhood. But that's part of the conversation that we have. We keep looking for a savior instead of operating in our proper polarity as being the saviors that we rightfully are. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean when I say the universe needs us. The universe needs us. Not me, not you, not her, every fucking one of us.
Collective.
The universe needs us collectively, right? So again, we only got 1 minute left. Two things. We on here, and I'm on here via Zoom because I got hit with COVID a couple weeks ago, and Big Lavender is scared for all the rest of us to come into the studio. So I won't be in the studio until like Wednesday, right? But because we're not in the studio directly, today's show kind of we had to wing it a little bit because there's a lot of shit and information we wanted to share, but there was technical problems with us getting that information up, right? Today is King Day. If I was in a room full of people and I said, how many of y'all love Dr. King? Everybody in that fucking room would raise their hand. If I followed that question up with a question that said, how many of y'all have done any research or read a book that King read? The vast majority of that room will put their hands down. So you don't fucking love King because you don't fucking know King. Right? You don't fucking love our communities because you don't know our communities. We can't beat our struggle because we don't understand our struggle. This conversation has to stop being circular, and we have to start investing in the answers ourselves, right? So stop asking Q, is he in this neighborhood? You in that goddamn neighborhood. You there.
Yeah, but I for sure, those are the people who should be doing it. I think that there is value in Q's experience and having done it to be able to kind of educate and kind of show the path and kind of lay out that blueprint for people to be able to duplicate in all communities, not only across the city of Chicago, but ultimately across the country. We are out of time. Q, you're going to have to come back, man. We're going to have to make it a weekly segment at least where you come back and we talk.
Love y'all,
community
man.
defense piece. Love you too, brother.
And be aware, the Soledad O'Brien piece drops in March.
I bet you'll definitely be back on before then, so we can talk about that. Hey, Q, too, the movie, One Day in Miami. You say you want to talk about that probably tomorrow. I'm gonna watch the movie tonight. If y'all want to be active in that conversation tomorrow, check out that movie, One Day in Miami. I think it's on Amazon Prime. It's talking about
and American Skin. If y'all get a chance to see American Skin, watch that too, because those are both conversations that I think are paramount in this moment in time.
American Skin, One Day in Miami. Both of those films we'll be discussing this week. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. This has been the relaunch edition of I Said What I Said. Looking forward to having two back in the studio on Wednesday. We'll do it again virtually tomorrow. Shout out to Q. Appreciate you coming through, brother. Huge shout out to DJ for doing all of the hard work behind the glass. We will see y'all back here tomorrow. Make sure y'all get up early with the Maze Jackson Show, the Ruthie Moore Show at 6 a.m. And then stick around for all the content. We will be back here at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Until then, y'all be good to each other. Peace.
Get off them drugs and turn in the bug. Whole gang off the yang, we rolling, we grooving. Lord of him drinking all kind of bullshit. He clutching a 40, he know how to use it. Them hoes just people.
Can they hear us?
They happy to meet us. You know they be choosing.
Thank you, brothers. Love y'all, man.
The fuck are you doing? All that playing tough just to get stumped. The fuck are you proving? Call my homie Quan, shorty low, he pulled up at some foolish. He say them drugs been doing the U-Haul, constantly moving. Saucy, big drip on me like a